This is Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily with Andrew Hustler Paterson and Michael Remis.
Hey, what's going on, everyone? I hope you had a great weekend. I hope all the dads out there had a fantastic Father's Day. But it's back to the grind on Monday afternoon here on Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. What's up, everybody? Thanks for joining us. Andrew Paterson along with Michael Remis. And my God, a huge weekend for sports. Trotz Watch continues. So we've got a packed show today for you here on WST. I know many of you are golf fans like me. What a weekend out at the Country Club at Brookline, Massachusetts for the U.S. Open. The Z-Man, Mark Zecchino, is going to jump on with us towards the end of the program. We'll discuss Matty Fitzpatrick's first ever major win and first win on North American soil, as well as what he's hearing about the next wave of PGA Tour players busting out for the Live Golf Tour. But of course, the main stories today on the program will be the National Hockey League, the Stanley Cup Final, and the Jets' pursuit of Barry Trotz. Dave Poulin's going to join us first up on the program. Always love having Dave to talk about everything going on around the National Hockey League. And then Jeff Hamilton, smack dab in the middle, going to jump on. We'll talk about the Bombers' big win to get to 2-0, as well as what he's hearing on the Winnipeg Jets situation when it comes to the coaching search. All of that and much, much more. Don't forget, stick around. We'll have our picks at the end of the show for Assiniboia Downs, and you'll also have a chance to get in your winner for race 6 tonight. And at that point, we'll, at the end of the week, actually, we'll tabulate up all the top winners, pick a couple of other random entries as well, and invite you all out with a guest to join us for that amazing prime rib buffet and a night of racing out at Assiniboia Downs. A big thanks to all the sponsors that make this show happen, including Assiniboia Downs, Aikens Lake, Wallace & Wallace, F Apparel, Vita Health Fresh Market, Culligan Water, Manitoba Battery, Royal Sports, Breezy Bend, Not Auto Corp, Little Brown Jug, Princess Auto, the Nick and Nicky DQ Group, Canadian Club, Coolbet Canada, and of course, Boston Pizza. And just a quick note, I'll maybe touch on this later on in the program, but tonight, Blue Jays viewing party, special Blue Jays viewing party over at Boston Pizza Polo Park. I went to this one when they did it last year, when it was sort of welcoming the Jays back to Canada, when they finally were able to play at home. Some really great giveaways. There's some free food, some free beverages, tons of giveaways. Everyone gets a Blue Jays cap on arrival, and you could also win a signed baller jersey. What you do want to do, book a table, reservations only for this one. So see if there's still room. 204-925-4107. That is tonight. First pitch at 7 p.m. over at Boston Pizza Polo Park. Let's get Remis in here. Remo, how was the weekend? You managed to stay cool? What a crazy heater we had yesterday. It's been a long time coming.
Oh, man. I'm not going to complain. I know we were bitching how it was coldest winter ever, but here we are for June, and it's 37 degrees. My joke has been, Winnipeg, you can't go outside in the winter, can't go outside in the summer. Thankfully, my AC has been working. If you know someone with a pool, consider yourself lucky, or you can get out to the lake. But yeah, it was a hot one yesterday. It was hot.
Oh, it was. I was out on Trotz Watch on location all weekend, thinking that, maybe, of course, many of the reports that we'd had sort of on Thursday and Friday indicated that there may be something happening this weekend between the Winnipeg Jets and Barry Trotz. That, of course, was then updated that it's been pushed back to happening this week. We'll get to those comments from the insiders, so we'll play them for you in a minute. But it did have a chance to go with a couple real close friends out to Clear Lake. Had a great time, watched the Bomber game. We'll actually listen to part of the Bomber game on the drive out on Friday. Shout out to Derek Taylor, sounding great on CJOB, filling those size 22s of the great Bob Irving. And then managed to watch the end of the game and, the second half of the game, and saw the Bombers pull out another win, which was great. And then got a chance to check out Clear Lake Golf Course, which was nice. Got out on the lake yesterday a little bit, and oh my God, it was hot. But it's so weird because it was as hot as it's been around these parts in a long, long time, and yet the water is still absolutely ice cold because of how cold the spring has been. So anyways, crank up the AC. We're back. It looks like it's going to be a pretty darn nice week here in the city of Winnipeg. But weather aside, Remo, obviously the Trotz story continues to dominate much of the oxygen, if you will, amongst the sports conversations. And as I said, I was out there. I told you I was on call. If something happens, we could have just ripped up to Dauphin, see if there was any celebrations on Barry Trotz way up there in Dauphin. But from the sounds like it, it's pretty much status quo as to where we were when we left on Friday, knowing Barry Trotz and the Winnipeg Jets are going to be meeting together. Other NHL jobs seem to be being filled, but far from a sure thing that the Jets are going to get their guy. Just shaping up for what's going to be another very interesting week as we continue the vigil known as Trotz Watch here on WST.
Yeah, this is our Stanley Cup playoffs, Huss. The Jets aren't in the playoffs, and seems like Trotz Watch is going to Game 7. Jay Miller writes in chat, Friday, we had talked about Mike McIntyre's report that, okay, it's big weekend coming up. They're going to be meeting. Decisions are going to be made. And that is, someone said in chat, okay, how was the meeting? Well, here's the update on the meeting. It's now this week. And Huss, did you see the weather in Winnipeg this weekend? Why would they schedule a meeting on the weekend? We're so silly for believing that they were going to meet. No one's doing any work this weekend. Come on. So the meeting is now this week. You do have all the quotes from the insiders. So everything we said last Friday about how big, the weekend is going to be with the meeting, that is now this week. It's not.
You know what? They just listen. We were taking a couple days off, so Trotz Watch takes a couple days off. It's pretty simple. Everyone agreed. They were going to enjoy a couple days away, watch the Bombers on Friday night, have a nice Father's Day. Now it's back to work. Time to get things done. A number of comments about the trip out west. I think it was Jay Miller asking about the bugs out in Clear Lake. I can confirm that they're brutal. During the day and when we were on the golf course, it wasn't too bad because it was actually quite windy, and that was welcome. Because if you did put it this way, there was a premium on hitting the ball in the fairway. I'll just say that much. Because when you get into the bush or into the trees, you didn't want to stay there too long. Now, a lot of people said that Barry Trotz was out in Dauphin on the weekend. I have no idea. WST does not have a GPS on the number one contender or candidate. However, knowing that there was a chance that he was out there, knowing how popular Clear Lake was when we were there on Saturday, I had an eagle eye on every single other group on the golf course, thinking that maybe, just maybe, a chance meeting with Barry Trotz would take place. It didn't happen. The meeting that needs to happen is the one with Mark Chipman and Kevin Cheveldayoff. And from all accounts, as we just mentioned, it's been pushed back, but the Jets are going to have a chance to see what they can do with Trotz later on this week, as all the other jobs seem to be getting filled.
Yeah, we did have so last week we had Cassidy and John Tortorella. Cassidy going on the full revenge tour. I mean, Barry Trotz gets fired, and we're on until a second month. It's been over a month. He's still going to make his decision, but it's a different situation. Cassidy didn't have a contract for this year, so he got scooped up by Vegas. And now Peter DeBoer, as we had been hearing in the rumors from the insiders for so long, Elliot tweeted yesterday, DeBoer to Dal. I don't know what acronym he decided to use, but seemingly no surprise. So it seems like now all the jobs getting scooped up. And if you're Barry Trotz, well, where are you going to go? You're going to go Winnipeg? You're going to go to Detroit? Seems like Boston wants to go in a different direction. Florida is kind of unclear. Maybe they stick with Brunette. I don't know why you would let him go. It's kind of an interesting situation there. So seems like Winnipeg or bust, and the Jets are going Trotz or bust. They're going all in. They're going hard. And who do they go if this doesn't work out? So again, big week coming up here on the Trotz Watch.
Well, and listen, there was quite a bit of interesting content over the weekend from a number of people that are pretty dialed in the National Hockey League, and we've got some clips, and we may as well play. This is the Winnipeg Sports Talk Trotz Watch Weekend in Review, and this is an interesting one with Dregs, and Dregs has sort of been all over the place. I mean, I've heard him sort of walking back a little bit what he had to say on the RRP show, that he couldn't see a scenario where Mark Scheifele was a Jet next year. That obviously, from most of the people in the know, seems to have been softened a little bit. But Drager was on, and let's tee it up with this one, because this is the one fans probably might not like the most, but we've got some more recent stuff from Elliot Friedman, I think, is a little bit more optimistic. But this one sort of caught me off guard, I'll be honest. Dreger was on the Instigators with Sabres host Brian Duff and said that he doesn't believe that the Jets are the first choice. Here's what TSN's insider had to say.
We're not close, and that's unfortunate for the Winnipeg Jets. You know, Shoveldayoff and company are in a holding pattern there. You know, Chevy has interviewed so many different candidates. And I mean, if your follow-up is, well, who would be plan B? I can't even tell you. You know, he talked to Bruce Cassidy before Bruce Cassidy, you know, obviously signed with the Vegas Golden Knights. He's interviewed Rick Tocchet. He's talked to Jim Montgomery. I mean, go down the list of the guys. You know, Barry Trotz is staying true to word. And that is, his priority remains his family. He's got an elderly father in Manitoba who he's paying close attention to. There are some now that are thinking, well, you know, Barry's taken this long and he's showing no evidence that he's just going to wake up one morning and say, I'm going to Winnipeg. Maybe he sits out the year and just focuses again on family. But if it's coaching, I'm not so sure Winnipeg is his first choice. It's first choice according to the media in Winnipeg. You know, I'm sure that Mark Chipman ownership of the Winnipeg Jets would love to get their hands on Barry Trotz.
All right, so interesting. Now, the one thing I'll say out of that, if Barry Trotz had another choice that he was looking at going for before Winnipeg, is that job still there? I mean, he reportedly turned down $7 million from Philly. Was certainly in the mix and talked to a number of other teams, but rumor was, we've discussed, these jobs are getting filled. And the Florida one was the most interesting, you know, as maybe a wild card that wasn't technically an opening, in that, you know, you've got a very, very good team that had a disappointing end of the season in the playoffs, but, you know, through the 82 games of the regular season, right there with the best in the entire National Hockey League. And, you know, you had a weird situation where Quenneville had to leave and you had an interim coach that came in and did a very good job. But, you know, naturally you'd think, okay, do we have the right guy? Is this who's going to be? But from all accounts, it sounds like it's more and more likely that Andrew Brunette will return. And certainly the players love playing for Andrew Brunette. So if that's off the case, Detroit's been very, very quiet, but we haven't heard a lot of connection from Trotz to Detroit. It sort of does seem right now that if Barry Trotz is going to be coaching this year, and there's no guarantee that is the case, Winnipeg is going to be the spot. The question is, can the Winnipeg Jets get that done? Or does Barry Trotz, as Dreger did allude to, which is certainly a very legit possibility, decide to just take Lou Lamoriello's money for a year and not coach?
Yeah, those Dreger comments were from Friday, like right after the show, right after we had heard about this meeting, that there was mutual interest. So I see a lot of comments in chat, you know, just responding to that. And I will say, I don't think, you know, any Winnipeg media have said that, you know, Winnipeg is Barry Trotz's first choice. I think it's just been hope that because that he's from here, he'd want to come here. As we all know how difficult it is to convince free agents to come to Winnipeg, right? We all know.
We've heard that before.
So you'd hope a guy who's, you know, from the area would be more likely to come here than a guy who wasn't.
Yeah, the one thing, now T. Will said, I guess Trotz is booking a second interview so he can tell the Jets he wants to take the job to their face. I don't, listen, there's no way, I think there's enough respect between the sides, having talked already with everything that's been going on, the fact that the Jets have still pretty much stayed entrenched, that their number one guy is Barry Trotz and they're hoping to get it done. If they've been told, or if there was any inkling that this was a waste of their time and they should move on, I would imagine that would have been said. So, as I said, nothing's concrete, nothing's confirmed, other than, if you believe what we're hearing from so many of the insiders, and we'll get to this right away, there still is going to be talks between these parts, and it'll probably happen this week. Let's get back to the insider trading on Friday. This is the second clip we've got that the teams are getting closer to some sort of a decision.
He is getting a little closer. What we're told is that Barry Trotz, his intention is to make his decision on his NHL future around July 1st, and he's indicated that to a few teams. Now, we know, of course, we reported before that he's interviewed with the Winnipeg Jets, he's interviewed with the Detroit Red Wings, among other clubs, for the head coaching jobs. But we're also told that he has chatted with his old NHL club, the Nashville Predators, about a potential management role with the organization, which has always kind of been rumored about Barry Trotz, but it's interesting that that's yet another option for Barry Trotz potentially.
Well, management position is something that Barry Trotz has been interested in for quite a while now. However, it is important to note that he is going to continue to talk to teams about coaching and is expected to meet again with the Winnipeg Jets next week. So we'll see where that goes.
All right. The one thing I'll say about the Nashville opportunity is interesting. We can talk about all the connections that Barry Trotz has to this, geographical area and this province, the city of Winnipeg and Dauphin and Manitoba. I mean, he's got roots in Nashville, maintains a home in Nashville. I know there was a house purchase that got a lot of people talking about earlier on. And the fact of the matter is John Hines in that group is being brought back, but I'm not sure that there's any guarantee that Hines is going to be there long term. And if things don't go well and Barry Trotz is in the management group, I guess I could foresee a possibility where he ends back up on the bench with the Nashville Predators if he goes that direction. But as I said, Winnipeg's still very much in this. Elliot Friedman had quite a bit of content throughout the weekend. Let's get to Elliot. Here's a quick coaching update Saturday during Game 2 of the Stanley Cup Final.
Well, Barry Trotz is going to meet with Winnipeg next week, and we're expecting some clarity in some other situations. First of all, Edmonton, Jay Woodcroft, they're working towards, it's expected it's going to get there. Dallas, if it's Peter DeBoer, I think we're going to know in the next couple of days. And also Florida, there seems to be some optimism that that's going to work out with Andrew Burnett, but we'll see for sure.
All right, so that was a quick hitter during the Stanley Cup Final. Elliot then hooked up with Jeff Marin on the 32 Thoughts podcast and expanded more on that and discussed this huge meeting and what is at stake for Winnipeg when they get together with Barry Trotz at some point expected this week.
Well, he's going into Winnipeg next week, and that's going to be a huge meeting. If I was the Jets, I would kidnap him.
It seems like every business in Manitoba is essentially demonstrating he'll never have to pay for anything so long as he shall live, as long as he takes this job.
Or what I would do is I would say to Barry Trotz, he could get into a room, and then I would bring in Chris Walby, and I would bring in Doug Brown, and I would bring in all the biggest and baddest current and former Winnipeg Blue Bombers, or the biggest people in Winnipeg, and say, Barry, you want to get out of here without a signed contract? You have to go through them.
Even in his 60s, Walby's still intimidating.
Oh, yeah, he's a big, big man. I like Chris.
Yeah.
But that's the thing. I would say you're not getting out of here until you get a deal, until we have a deal.
All right, so there's Elliot's take on it. And I'm not sure whether listen, Bluto would be down. I can tell you, we just need to get him a couple extra racks of Little Brown Jug, and I think he'd be more than happy to help out with that situation. Although I'm not sure that's really the way that they are going to get things done. But it does speak to a level of urgency, both time-wise as well as getting their guy. Now, Elliot did finish off, and this will be our final clip, Friedman did, and this again from 32 Thoughts, say things in his perspective are looking better for the Jets right now.
So all of a sudden you're looking at this and you're playing process of elimination. You're thinking, okay, it's us, maybe Detroit, maybe he takes the year off, or maybe he goes into Nashville's front office. But if he wants to coach, it's looking much more optimistic this week than last week for the Jets. I don't care what smoke signals the Jets are sending out. I think Barry Trotz knows that if he wants to coach in Winnipeg, he's going to have a comfortable situation. That they are going to say, Barry, what do you need? And we'll make it work.
All right, so there's the final clip from Elliot Friedman. And the one thing I'll say to that is the fact that they're circling back. I have a feeling that many of those things that were put, that Elliot just mentioned, were probably somewhat put on the table beforehand. I mean, certainly the intentions that, he is their guy. They want to have them, they have him here. They think that he can be the solution, and everything else around what coming back to Manitoba would mean. But as I said, there still seems there's some work to do. The one thing I will say from this, and this is just from a Jets fan perspective, I don't think there is a fan around that can give the management of True North a hard time about the way they've handled these things. He's clearly been the first choice. He clearly is, in the minds of, I think, most people, the guy that would be the best solution to where the team is at right now. And They're doing everything they can to get it done. There was no guarantees that Barry Trotz was going to be the guy here. I'd say I personally am a little more optimistic now, considering some of the other jobs that have been filled. But it's far from a guarantee. But if they do have to go another direction, it won't be for lack of trying with the guy that was the number one candidate on their list, Remis. And again, it just gives us a few more days to kick this around, and it certainly is the hottest topic in Winnipeg when it comes to the local hockey team, and we'll be here for it.
I loved hearing Jeff Merrick bring up how seemingly every business is giving him free blank for life, most notably free little brown jug and a beer named after him, but also the shout out to Elliot giving the shout out to Walby and Doug Brown. I just thought that was entertaining.
Everybody saw Walby's tweet after the little brown jug offer that he wanted to potentially join the coaching staff, and we had a great chat with him last week. So there is your up-to-date weekend in review for Trotz Watch on Winnipeg Sports Talk. We'll get Dave Poulin's thoughts, and we'll certainly pick the brain of Jeff Hamilton when Harbour joins us a little later on. One of the other things we'll do, Remo, is talk about that Bomber game. Man, I'll say this. There's a lot of things that the Blue Bombers can improve on right now, but the defense sure looked a lot better with Jackson Jeffcoat. Huge play in the second half, deep in their own territory, forcing that fumble. And once again, a defense that may have a little bit of bend, but there is not a lot of break. And you look at their performance in the second half and especially the fourth quarter, that's been the backbone of the championship pedigree this team has. Still waiting for the offense to maybe get going a little bit more. But right now, the team's 2-0. Hard to complain about an undefeated season so far, even though we know that there is quite a bit more we can get out of this blue and gold team.
Yeah, not winning by enough. So not winning in as dominating fashion.
Well, they did win by enough. They did win by enough.
They did cover.
I mean, anyone that was worried that they were all faithful in the Bombers and they bet it earlier on at 6.5 and saw it go all the way down to 1, it didn't matter what the number you got on the Bombers. They got the W and they covered the spread.
I'll say this about the defense. When it's the second half of the game, they haven't given up a touchdown. Ottawa had 2 field goals in the first game, and in the second game they only had the one field goal as well. So it seemed like when Ottawa was trying to get down to the red zone, it just wasn't. They couldn't punch it in, and Jackson Jeffcoat making his presence shown late in the game with the strip fumble. That was an absolutely huge play. So on the offense, you'd like to see some improvement in terms of moving the ball. Dalton Schoen has looked great. Field goal kicking is going to be a question through the first 2 games. You can't have these missed extra points, allowing them to get back in it. So, but hey, 2-0, I don't think you can argue. Look, you got a lot of long season to hit your stride. You'd rather be peaking at the right time, and they certainly did that in the last season.
No doubt about it. Bombers back at it on Friday. We'll talk Bombers with Jeff Hamilton coming up a little bit later on in the program. And, of course, the Bombers are back in action. Yeah, Friday night, a home to Hamilton. And Friday will also be our live show at Little Brown Jug. So there's a quick heads up to all of you. If you're able to maybe ditch work or get out on Friday afternoon, come on out, hang out with us. We'll do the show from 1 until 3. And then we'll probably kick around, have a couple pints before heading down to IG Field for Bombers and Ticats. All right, we are expecting Dave Poulin coming up in just a few minutes. I want to give a big shout out to our friends Pitt and the gang at Aikens Lake Wilderness Lodge. Saw a number of big ones. I saw a number of big ones coming out of that lake yesterday. And we're going to be doing it early in August, so hopefully we'll have plenty of touchdown dances to show you coming out into the boat. Find out more at aikenslake.com or at Aikens Lake on Twitter if you're thinking about making it out to one of the greatest places you've ever found. 2 hours you can be on the water from the city of Winnipeg, and you won't even know you're anywhere near the grid, if you will. Wallace & Wallace is everywhere. Winnipeg's fencing and overhead door specialist. You've seen their fences and trucks all over the city. And listen, if you need the security and protection of a new fence, or if winter's done a number on your old one, give them a call. They've got you covered. Vinyl, ornamental, welded wire, chain link, or wood. And if it's time to replace your garage door, they've also got Winnipeg's largest selection of overhead garage doors. 452-2700. And a Wallace & Wallace expert will come down and give you a free estimate. You can also visit them at wallacefences.com or popped into their showroom on Lawson Road off of Kenniston. Hey, this Saturday, our friends at Vita Health Fresh Market are having their big block party and barbecue. Saturday, June 25th, 11 to 1 at the Linden Ridge location, 1751 Kenniston. Bring the whole family for face painting, games, product samples, and a free lunch. Remo and I think we're going to probably pop by there. Maybe I can see what Remis looks like face painted. Of course, you'll also find great prices on Winnipeg's best selection of natural and organic supplements, beauty products, and groceries. And if you can't make it into the store, visit their brand new fully shoppable website to buy online, schedule delivery, or in-store pickup. Vita Health Fresh Market, Saturday, Linden Ridge, 11 to 1. And, of course, they've got 7 Winnipeg locations, including the newest store at Linden Ridge and online at myvita.ca. Hey, tomorrow we'll probably see a great selection of new suits from our gang over at F Apparel. Of course, it's the Rady dinner, sold out. Emmett Smith will be there. Really looking forward to being a part of that. If you're realizing, man, come fall, I got to be looking good for a number of back-to-real-life sort of scenarios, F's got you covered. Custom suits starting at $400. And if you're in a wedding party, talk to them about a great deal for the entire wedding party. 15% off for the fellas when you get your suits over at F Apparel. Find out everything they've got at fapparel.com or pop down to see them at 190 Smith Street. All right, Reem, I think we've got Dave, just no video. Is that right?
Yeah, I think Dave's there.
Oh, perfect. Well, let's get this going and welcome Dave Poulin in for a little Monday NHL talk. Dave, can you hear me okay? How are you?
I can. Where's my video?
I'm not sure. We've got a...
Do you want me to try again?
Yeah, that would be great, actually. Maybe just pop out and pop back in. Everyone wants to see you.
Let me do this.
Perfect. Of course, Dave covering the Stanley Cup final. And we'll also get Dave's thoughts on what we've got as far as the coaching situation that we just updated you on throughout the last 20 minutes or so. Tonight, Game 3, Tampa, do or die. We really didn't spend much time talking about that in the first few minutes, but my God, was that an absolutely stunning game on Saturday. I mean, it's just a complete thrashing of the defending champs, and I'm not sure a lot of people saw that. Dave, we'll just get your picture up. It's all good. Remo will be able to handle that. First off, how are you? How was your Father's Day? How was your weekend?
A lot of golf and a little bit of hockey, and not very good hockey by one of the teams involved. But the other team may have played as perfect a game as I've seen in the Stanley Cup playoffs or the Stanley Cup finals or at any level in a really long time. And, as a coach, you start to coach it, and then you have a really good drill that you like, and everybody does it at top speed, and you're like, wow, we're okay. And then you have a practice, and you get a practice where everybody's in stride and everybody's nailing it. And then you work into games and you think, okay, we played great for that 5-minute segment, or we played great for that 8-minute segment, but we're just not consistent. And your best players have to be your best players. I'm not sure I've seen a game where every single player played at his essentially best level for the entire game. And I think that's what we saw on Saturday night. It wasn't it wasn't McKinnon just ripping it up and leading the way. It was every single guy. And right now they're playing at a pace that Tampa's going to have to figure out. And, we've given Tampa a lot of credit through this run, Andrew, and I think Tampa will be there tonight. I really do feel like they're not done yet, but they have a lot of work to do to get to that point. It's not just going to happen because they're playing in their home building.
Well, and you're right. They have been in this situation before. Last series, they lost the first 2 to the New York Rangers, and then it was down 2-0, and really in a jam. And sure enough, they come back, win that game, and win the next 3. But Dave, back to Saturday night. I'm sort of with you. I mean, I don't know how the Avalanche could have been much better in that game, but how concerning was the performance of the Tampa Bay Lightning? That looked nothing like the team that has been so good for so long, and they had absolutely no answers for what the Avalanche were bringing.
Well, the reason that Tampa's as good a team as they are is because their best players are the best players on an every night basis. Like, very seldom do you say, oh, where was Victor Hedman tonight? Or where was Steven Stamkos? Or that wasn't a Kucherov game. You might have one of those guys, but right now none of them were in sync. And you don't you think they're too good a team and they have too many good individuals for it to continue. You really do. So as much as we're saying, where was Tampa, how much of that was because of what Colorado was doing? And, I can just see, I know pro meetings are going on right now and amateur meetings and all the respective teams, they get ready for the draft, and things become topics. And right now, you better believe that speed is a topic in all of these draft meetings and all of these free agent meetings they're talking about, because Colorado's speed just looks unstoppable. And even when you go out and get a couple guys, you had Darren Helm last summer. Well, he was always one of the fastest skaters in the league, even in his mid-30s. Andrew Cogliano, same thing, big-time speed. And their defense, when Byram started playing more minutes when Girard got hurt, that adds even more speed back there with Bo and Byram. And so it's just impressive to watch. And I think Tampa has an excellent coaching staff from top to bottom. And I do think if I were them right now, I'd be studying what St. Louis was able to do in a couple of games by getting to that speed early and stopping Makar and stopping McKinnon before they essentially got going.
Well, Dave, I love the fact that you brought up the speed because, it's glaringly obvious when they have the puck, but it's also been incredibly impactful defensively. And I think back to, what Cale Makar was able to do against Connor McDavid in the conference finals. And now it doesn't even seem like they're spending very much time playing on defense because that speed and that tenacious forecheck is turning the puck over. And that's how you get Nikita Kucherov to go through an entire game with no shots, because they're chasing the puck and chasing their opponents the entire time.
No question. And there was a play that I clipped in the first period where Makar started it going through the neutral zone. He was solo, and so I'm assuming a couple guys were changing. And all of a sudden, he decided to step on the forecheck. So here you had a right shot defenseman forechecking in the left corner, offensive corner, right across kitty corner, right, and leading the way, and turned the puck over. And then when it popped back to the blue line, you look and he was standing back at the blue line where he was supposed to be, in great position for that play. So just impressive in the way they're doing it in sync, because there's always been fast players. But to be able to do it, in coordination with the other four guys on the ice, and if everybody look like they're moving at full speed, is a real rarity in the National Hockey League.
Dave Poulin's with us here on Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily from the TSN Hockey Panel. John Cooper has really established himself as one of, if not the best coach in the game. And we've seen over and over through series the way he has made adjustments and they've made a difference. What's going on in that Tampa coaching room right now heading into tonight?
Well, he'd be very demanding of his assistants, and they may even break it down. He may take a Robbie Zettler and say, okay, I want you just to tell me how we can help your defense from a forward group. And he's got Derek Lalonde, Newsy Lalonde, and he's got Jeff Halpern as his forward coaches. One might get the special teams and say, okay, we've got to be better in the 2-minute game. You work on the power play. Zettler may as well work on the penalty kill, if he's a defensive coach. But it's breaking it down and saying, show me, guys, I need to see some examples of what we can do differently. Give me a different angle. Give me a different place where we can put the puck on offense to make it harder for Cale Makar and Devon Taves and Bowen Byram to lead their rush. How can we be more physical without taking ourselves out of the game? So in the first goal, they get 3 guys caught below the goal line. Well, that's fine. That's the fourth line, and that's what they do. And Maroon and Perry are mixing it up down there with Belmar. But then a defenseman can't go up on the play. So it's things that they've done well, but as a head coach, I want answers from my assistants with specifics. I want to be able to give my guys something other than we've got to play better. I want to give them some simple tasks that they can do within their game, staying within themselves, to turn this around. And the other thing, Andrew, they absolutely have to start the game better. And they can't take a penalty in the first minute for roughing as McDonough did. And they can't put that team on the power play and let them get rolling early. So I think real tangible things that are very simple, and that sounds simple, but that's what it is. The individuals have to play better.
Dave Poulin with us. Pouli, everyone's talking about Valeri Nichushkin. And Nichushkin has, 3 goals already in the Cup final. He's got 13 points through 16 games, had a 25-goal season. I can't look at this guy without remembering the player that went 57 games for the Dallas Stars 3 seasons ago without a single goal. Has this guy just completely turned around? And what are the lessons that the rest of the league can learn from a guy that was a first-round pick, 10th overall, that didn't work out in one spot, that is now starring in the most important time of the year with the best team in the league?
Well, it has to be incredibly frustrating, obviously, for Colorado, or for Dallas, rather. I mean, this is a guy, you bought him out. I mean, you not only got rid of him, but you bought him out. You paid somebody essentially to take him. And, you know, he's still only 27 years old. And he's in a very, very comfortable spot now. And it certainly has blossomed on every front. But really hard to fathom the struggles that he went through. I mean, 0 goals in 57 games. That doesn't. It seems like you or I would get one.
Yeah, it sounds impossible.
Today. And playing with some of the guys that he would have played with through that group. It really does. But he's found his stride. He's in a comfortable place. And maybe that's what it is. The spotlight's not on him. You know, yeah, sometimes he goes up and plays with the top line, but it's not like everybody's not looking at him to lead the way. And they've done a masterful job. Burakovsky's another one who would fit into that category. You know, how is he as available as he is and scoring as timely and as good goals as he has? And, you know, why couldn't he do that more consistently in Washington with the skill level there? So a lot of it's timing. A lot of it's the way he's handled by his coaches. Nichushkin coming into his unrestricted free agency is, you know, and you'd still be a little bit leery. You'd still be like, okay, well, he was really good there, but we've seen the other guy as well, and he's going to get a big contract, and I'd be a little leery if I were a buyer.
You know, from your time in the front office, I imagine there's an incredible advantage for good teams when it comes down to it. When players like, you know, a Nichushkin or guys that are sort of looking for a spot to jumpstart their career, potentially coming in on a lesser priced or a value contract, because they know that this is the opportunity that can, you know, hopefully help them get to where that they want to be. And this might be one of the best examples of that.
Well, it really might. And it's not a lot different from why the third line's successful in Tampa. You know, they're asked to do a certain thing and not above it. And do they do above it on a given night? Of course they do. Nick Paul scores a couple of big goals in the game clinch against the Leafs or whatever it may be. They've gotten timely contributions along the way. But so has Colorado. And Colorado's playing without their second line center right now. Well, all of a sudden JD Compher pops up and is good, or Rantanen slides over in the middle and is good. And that depth is crossing into different levels right now, which is exactly what you need if you're going to hit like they're hitting on all cylinders.
Dave, I'm not willing to bury the Lightning yet, but if they weren't wearing Lightning jerseys and I saw that game on Saturday night, I'm not sure whether I'd feel the same. They get the benefit of the doubt because of what they've done. But how realistic might this be a short series in your mind?
Well, we're going to know better in a couple hours.
Exactly.
How are you feeling right now if you're across state in Florida and you got thumped 4 straight games by them 2.5 weeks ago? And you're thinking, well, wait a second, you know, what was that? Or the Rangers or the Leafs for that matter. And, you know, they beat 3 pretty good teams along the way. It wasn't like things broke nicely for them and, you know, they got an easy draw and somebody upset somebody and they got an underdog. They had none of that along the way. And they'd had to earn every bit of it. But I still don't think they're done. I still think you'll see a game tonight. And I still think they're capable of coming back in this series. But they've got to play the way we know and have seen them play.
Dave, while we're talking about, you mentioned Florida. Needless to say, and this will come as no surprise to you, that the coaching vacancy in Winnipeg has been the engine of this show for the last month or so, Barry Trotz being at the top of the list. What do you make of the Trotz situation right now, where the Jets are, and what we've heard about Florida, kind of talking to some other people quietly over the phone, but now it looks like Andrew Burnett, certainly from the insiders that are reporting on it, seeming like he might very well come back. I mean, what does that mean for the Jets in this situation? And you're hearing anything else about the vacancy here in Winnipeg and the potential of Barry Trotz?
Well, you guys have done a really nice job of putting a package together for him. Kevin Cheveldayoff doesn't even have to put a package together. You've already looked after that. So there's some very nice recruiting on that step. And by the way, you have broken every NCAA rule in the book. If you were on my recruiting staff, You have literally broken every NCAA rule in your recruitment of Barry Trotz. If you're in Winnipeg right now, don't you have to feel pretty good? Because teams you were concerned about have hired coaches over the weekend. I mean, you were concerned about Vegas for sure. They hired Bruce Cassidy. You were concerned about Philadelphia and what their bank vault could do, and they hired John Tortorella, and now Peter DeBoer is going into Dallas. So, you still have. I don't think he's a fit in Detroit. I keep thinking that Stevie Yzerman's waiting, and if he really wanted to make a run at Barry Trotz, that he would have by now. So I think just by attrition, and it could be because you're in a good situation, and Barry Trotz knows that. But I think you're in a good position, and you've got to like the fact that those three teams have gone ahead. Boston still might be a bit of a concern for you, but I could see them going young as well. Nate Lehman's a name you hear down there, and I know they tried to put him in their American League organization with Providence maybe a year or two ago. He coaches at Providence College and has done a great job there, and that's a name you hear. And you've heard other names that are more associated with potentially where the Bruins are going in looking ahead. But, if I'm in Winnipeg right now, I'm thinking my odds are better than they were a week and a half ago or a week ago.
You mentioned that Detroit situation, and I can't help but think that part of the waiting might be that Steve Yzerman's quite interested in someone that's coaching right now, and we know that his ties with the Tampa Bay Lightning, are very strong. Do you think it might be one of the Lightning assistants that might actually be the apple of Stevie Y's eye?
I do, and it wouldn't surprise me at all if it were Derek Lalonde. And, he's got a similar background and profile to what John Cooper had coming in for his first job in the National Hockey League as an assistant, whereas John's first job in the National Hockey League was a head coach. But they both worked in the USHL. They both worked in junior hockey. Derek, as well, as worked in college. He worked at Ferris State with Bobby Daniels. He worked at Denver University as well. And I thought it was Jeff Halpern at first, but I think there's a little more round out to Derek Lalonde's game. Rob Zettler's the third name there, and he was the head coach in Syracuse in the American Hockey League. I worked with Rob, when we were together with the Leafs. He was an assistant coach. But my eye goes towards the name that probably people know the least of, because that's where he went when he hired a full-time head coach with the Tampa Bay Lightning. It was a guy that people weren't that familiar with. Now, my Marlies team had lost to him when he was in Norfolk in the American Hockey League in the Calder Championship. So I was pretty familiar with Coop. Coop also worked at the Dave Poulin hockey camp years ago when he was a midget hockey coach in Detroit. So I go back a long way there, but a little bit of an unorthodox route along the way, but he'd won at every level. And so I wouldn't be surprised if Stevie Yzerman is waiting, and I wouldn't be surprised if that's who he was waiting for was Derek Lalonde.
I've got to ask you about John Tortorella. What do you think about the fit of Torts in Philly? I mean, to me, I'll be honest, Dave, I was mentioning this on the show last week. Torts has been around the league for so long and has been in so many spots. You sort of think, I still think of him as a guy that already coached the Flyers. It almost seems like it had to happen at some point. I mean, what do you think of the fit? And, if you're a Flyer fan, can you be optimistic that the presence of John Tortorella alone can completely change the culture and get this team back to at least respectability?
I think he can get them back to respectability. I don't know if he can get them to win the way they're constructed right now. I think there's still a lot of work to do on the roster. And, and I'm sure John Tortorella had those conversations with Chuck Fletcher going in. It does seem to be a fit, though, with Torts and Philly. Now, that being said, Philly isn't what Philly was, Andrew. We're not talking, and he can't wheel Bobby Clark and Reggie Leach out there for the power play right now. And and that's a different team. And the organization has changed over the last few years. And quite frankly, it can be attributed to the fact that Ed Snyder's no longer with us. And he was the owner there for almost 50 years, which is absolutely amazing, from day one, and passed in 2015, I believe. And I was at the funeral. I remember sitting there thinking, I wonder if this organization will change, because he was the one constant right from day one that kept that flavor of the Philadelphia Flyers what it was. And it has changed. It has changed significantly. They're much more corporate now in the way they're run, whereas before it was an individual. And I think that bringing Trotz in is a little bit of a move towards where they want to go and reestablish an identity. And I believe it's an identity that fits the city well. And we'll see if he's the guy that can take them there.
Dave, I know you're a big golf guy. Do you watch the U.S. Open?
Oh, absolutely. I do have a great story from that first tee, Andrew. And I drove by that course literally every day on my way to the Boston Garden. So I was pretty familiar with it, but I had an opportunity to play it a few times as well. And I brought a young Boston Bruin named Stephen Hines. Hines, he joined us from the U.S. Olympic team in '92. And that spring, we brought him out to the country club. Now, here's a Boston kid playing at the country club for the first time. He'd gone to school at Boston College just up the road. And I played with Hines. He was a pretty good golfer. Cam Neely was with us, and then our host. And so the first tee is kind of removed from where the clubhouse is. It's down a little bit. So it's not like a patio where everybody sits and watches you tee off. So Hines, he goes first, and he hits it about 20 feet, literally. And so I said, Heinzie, just relax. He comes back and says, I'm playing the country club. I'm so excited. It's unbelievable. I said, hit another one, Heinzie. So he hits his second one. He hits it about 40 feet. And he comes back and he says, Poulin, I'm really nervous. I didn't know those two guys were going to be watching. I said, Heinzie, the caddies, they're coming with us, buddy. They're going to watch every shot you take all day. So every time I watched someone tee off on the first tee, I thought, Heinz, he was nervous because two guys were going to be following us around the course, and he didn't realize at that point they were going to be carrying his bag too.
Does that course play like such a beast for mere mortals as it did for the guys in the U.S. Open, or did they just trick it out so much? I mean, that looks like a long, long walk in the afternoon, if you know what I'm saying.
One of the hardest golf courses I've ever played, without a question. Now, a little bit reconfigured because they had a little course there as well. They borrowed and begged and stole parts of the different holes, and it was much longer than I would have played it at. But it was a memorable course. I mean, it was really, really remarkable. And I love the courses that are 100+ years old who hold up to today's games, as Glen Abbey did, or not Glen Abbey, but St. George's did the week before at the Canadian Open.
Well, speaking of the Canadian Open, just before we go, I mean, your last visit with us, we saw the photo of you on the Zamboni at the Canadian Open getting ready for it. It looked, I mean, honestly, it was exactly what the tour needed. It was exactly what Golf Canada needed. An absolutely amazing event. Did you get out there very much? And
I did. I had an opportunity.
Were you there on Sunday?
I wasn't. I was there mostly. The longest time I spent there was Friday. But one of my good friends was the tournament director, so we had a chance to chat with the agronomist and the greenskeeper and the head greenskeeper and the guy that set the pins that morning. And we hung out in the hockey hole for quite a while. Our TSN booth was set up there, and they did a great job with that hole. I mean, they really do a great job with that tournament. They've built it into quite an event, and it was a lot of fun.
Well, and then you had that final threesome, Tony Finau, Justin Thomas, and Rory McIlroy, and Rory winning with a 62. The other guys with 64s. I mean, it didn't get much better than that. It sort of gave a lot of momentum going into the U.S. Open, and another thrilling finish yesterday where for the first-time winner, that's what it's all about. And you know what the great thing was, Dave? We had a great day watching golf, and then it's right back at it, seeing if the defending back-to-back champs can get off the mat tonight.
I would predict they'll be off the mat tonight, Matt. Andrew. That's my prediction for the day. Is I think you're going to see. Now, I'm not going to say they're going to win, but they're coming off the mat. They're going to play a good game tonight.
Hey, Dave, last one for you on the way out. Outside of the Cup final, 30 other teams are planning for the draft. I mean, what's happening right now? I mean, we saw that Russian sign with the Canucks. So we saw a trade last week, with Vegas and Montreal involving the Shea Weber contract. How active are front offices right now outside of the likes of the Winnipeg Jets that are still trying to figure out who their bench boss is going to be?
Well, I think they're very active internally right now. So you stagger your amateur meetings and your pro meetings. My guess is the final meetings are the pro meetings that are going on right now, and putting the final touches on what they're going to do with free agency. And these are two separate groups of meetings. Obviously, the top management participates on both sides, but there's a lot of conversation going on, most of it internal right now. And you're really trying to be poised and positioned for what you're going to do with free agency, what you're going to do with your own guys to start with, because there's a lot of work to do internally for a lot of these teams and restricted free agents. in unrestricted free agents. And so right now, it is not a quiet time for offices. Offices are in full go right now.
Dave, thanks so much for the time. Enjoy the game tonight, and keep hitting them straight when you get on the links.
Enjoy your hockey. Have a great day, Andrew. Thanks.
Thanks so much. There's Dave Poulin, TSN hockey panelist, and one of our favorites here on Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Yeah, we will hook up with Jeff Hamilton in a few minutes. But while we do that, give a big shout out to our friends over at Culligan Water, the water experts in Winnipeg. And God knows you needed a lot of it yesterday with those record-breaking temperatures here in Winnipeg. Culligan's got it all: water softeners, filters, bottled water coolers, whole home systems and drinking water systems, and citywide water delivery services, as well as commercial and industrial water products and solutions. Whether it's for the home, the cottage, or the office, Culligan's got you. 1200 Sargent Avenue, or find them online at drinkculligan.com. Manitoba Battery's busy right now, and that's why they've extended their hours up until 8 p.m. on Monday to Friday, so you can hit up Manitoba Battery after work, get everything you need to make the most of our weekends in the very short Manitoba summer. Batteries for literally anything you need to help your summer come along. You're working on a hot rod, you got a golf cart ripping around campsites, something on the water, boats, Sea-Doos, Manitoba Battery's got you covered. And the best part about it is, like all good Winnipeggers, we like a deal. You'll save big money and time over big box stores like Canadian Tire and Costco. Shop local, save time and money. Manitoba Battery, they're at 1026 Logan Avenue. Give them a call at 783-8787. They can get your order ready for you for a quick and easy pickup. And you can always find them online at manitobabattery.com. Another big win for the Bombers. Another home game on Friday. If you need to update your Bomber gear, head on over to Royal Sport. They've got the new alternate jerseys, which we'll see later on this season. Some exclusive back-to-back championship hats, and so much more, including CFL sideline gear. And way more than that, though. Jets gear, NHL, NFL, Major League Baseball, NBA, international soccer, and outside of merch, an expanded soccer section, softball, baseball, bikes, fitness, tons of disc golf equipment coming in. Royal Sports has it all. 750 Pembina Highway. Check them out on Instagram as well at Royal Sports Pembina for your latest merchandise drops and sales. And hey, a big shout out to the Nick and Nikki DQ. May I give a major boost to the new Reese's Pieces cookie dough blizzard. I had it on the weekend. That might be my new all-time number one. Hey, it's definitely blizzard right now. Get on over to your favorite Nick and Nikki DQ, DQ Northgate, DQ Polo Park, DQ St. Anne's, and DQ Niverville. And check out those stack burgers too. I mixed the steakhouse burger in the weekend as well. Thumbs up from yours truly. All right, let's get Hammer in here. We got a Bomber game to talk about. Trotz Watch continues, and Jeff Hamilton, the Winnipeg.
We're back.
All right, Hammer, can you hear me okay? We just had a little OBS crash quickly. No, we don't have Jeff. Well, anyways, quick little, this hasn't happened in a while, folks, but an OBS crash, which is the system that we use during the show. So we'll try and get that reconnected with Jeff Hamilton, and we can get in. Of course, the Bomber game on the weekend, 19-12 was the final. And to me, this was about the defense and the way they stepped up in the second half, and particularly the fourth quarter. And obviously getting Jackson Jeffcoat back was a massive boost for a defense that, well, didn't look quite like the defense that we'd seen terrorizing the rest of the Canadian Football League for the last couple years. So we'll talk about that with Jeff, and of course, the latest on Trotz Watch as well. I think we've got Hammer back. Hammer, can you hear me okay? Can we hear you? What's going on? Hey, sorry, shoot again?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
All right, we're back. We are back. This is good. I don't know. We had our first ever OBS crash in the middle of the show, but very quickly took care of it, and we are back. How was the weekend? You stayed out east after the football game?
Yeah, I just I stayed with or I was there for the game, obviously, and as I often do when I'm in Ottawa, I stick around for a few days, and so I'm currently out in my aunt and uncle's lake, Chaffee's Locks, Rito Lakes, Indian Lake, it's called too. There's a few of them that just blend into each other, but enjoying the sun and enjoying the water and enjoying this chat.
Beautiful. We're gonna get to all of it. Remo, are you hearing that feedback as well? I'm getting everything twice. I'm not sure whether that's coming out on the chat as well.
I'll fix that. You're good. You're good now.
Okay, awesome.
Thank goodness I was getting it too.
Yeah, okay, good.
Sorry.
Monday after a big weekend, it's a little bit of a slow start on WST. Although,
who's that idiot talking? No, it's me.
No, that's not on you. By the way, if you're with us, welcome to all the new viewers. Hit that red subscribe button if you haven't already. We're here Monday to Friday, 1:00 Central, live on YouTube. We'll have it in your podcast feed around 3:30, just in time for your drive home. I do want to talk football and get to everything that happened in the CFL this week. But let's get to the Jets coaching search right off the bat. You know what brings them out here on WST? Trotz Watch. We kind of went through an interesting report from Darren Drager on Friday saying he didn't think that Trotz was the Jets were Trotz's first choice, which got me thinking, well, what other choices are there right now, as many of the other jobs have been filled? But there was quite a bit of anticipation. A number of the local scribes writing that they were planning on meeting this weekend. We've now heard that this meeting has been pushed back. Where are we right now with the Jets' pursuit of Barry Trotz, Jeff? And what are you hearing?
Yeah, so I wasn't one of those guys that got the heads up about this weekend chat, but I've been hearing there's been some, I don't know if I want to call it internal turmoil, certainly debate over whether Barry Trotz is the right guy for this organization. And I don't mean that as, of course he's, we've been reported and there's no lie to the fact that he's at the top of their list and was for a very long time. I just think there might be a bit of a difference in opinion in some of the decisions that come with Trotz as your head coach. We all know the style in which Barry Trotz plays. He's very defensive minded. You can make the argument, of course, that the Jets need a kick in the can when it comes to improving on defense, and he'd certainly bring that. But you also don't really look at a roster like the Winnipeg Jets have, a lot of offensive, talent, a lot of guys who like to be around the net, who like to score goals, who like to play offense. Not 100% sure if that's the perfect fit for a Barry Trotz. And Barry Trotz, you get the reports out there, he's gonna get what he wants. And I think that's true in a lot of cases, but there might just be too many pieces to the puzzle here in Winnipeg. Now, that being said, I've also heard stories about, from people that he's already agreed to the terms of service with the Winnipeg Jets. Now, what does that mean? That means maybe it's True North that's holding off. And it could be a number of reasons. We all know True North is a guy that, is a company that, keeps their cards close to their vest. They don't like to share a lot of things. They like to, announce, have their announcements at when and however way they want it. And so maybe they are doing a lot of thinking. Maybe there's another candidate that comes into play. I'm not sure about that. Now, I do think that Barry Trotz is the leading candidate. I do, if you had to make me predict right now who's the next coach of the Winnipeg Jets is, it's Barry Trotz. I've heard names being floated out there of potential candidates to the staff around Barry Trotz, and I'll tell you their names. I've heard that, there's a guy by the name of Brad Lauer, who was the coach of the Edmonton Oil Kings, the most recent, the WHL champions. His names has been floated around as a potential Trotz guy. Another guy in the name of he's a guy that's he head coach of the U.S. The Chicago Steel of USHL. He's a surprise, a true North guy, a Kevin Cheveldayoff.
Hey, Jeff, he's a guy that. Hey, you just crapped out there for a second. What was the guy's name again? Just give us the background on him, because I think we just got
Brock Sheehan. Brock Sheehan was another name I'm hearing that would be a potential candidate. Did you hear that, Huss? Brock Sheehan, a potential candidate for a Trotz staff. And Brock Sheehan, as I mentioned, is a USHL head coach for the Chicago Steel and has connections to Kevin Cheveldayoff. So, and from what I understand, Brad Lauer, the other guy I know, is a Trotz guy. So we're getting to the point where I'm hearing things where, ultimately a staff is being put together or potentially put together. Now, no one's willing to confirm this. I thought it very interesting, all outlets in Winnipeg seem to have got the same information leading into the weekend. Where that came from, I don't know personally, but clearly there's an interest as far as True North and Barry Trotz to talk. I've heard, it's funny that, Darren Dreger, you mentioned he'd reported that you're not 100% sure that Trotz is True North's number one option.
No.
Well,
the Jets
is
are
the other way around.
The Jets are his first option. But then my question is, well, what other options are there right now, considering all these other jobs, including one that he reportedly turned down in Philly for huge dough?
Well, and that's the thing. And I'm hearing, I heard Dave Poulin put in there. I'm hearing from the same guy who threw out those two names that, Derek Lalonde is almost a done deal in Detroit, that he's no longer, a fit there with Winnipeg. So all signs point to Barry Trotz being the next head coach. I've also heard, over weeks, like it almost feels crazy, like the reports that I'm getting, and people from him being pretty much a lock to him now pulling back. Barry Trotz obviously is taking this decision very seriously, right? And I think True North is taking this decision very seriously and weighing out the options, because like I said, I would not be surprised that Barry Trotz hired as the Winnipeg Jets coach will be the news of the summer, if that indeed is what happens. But I think the moves just start there. I think if Barry Trotz gets named head coach of the Winnipeg Jets, watch out, because I think there's potential for a lot of movement, a lot of shakeup. And now I'm not confirming this, but I think that might be the reluctance from True North. I think that they like who they have. They believe, there's an answer there. Success there, even though we look at last season, obviously something needs to give. But if you're going to hand the keys to Barry Trotz, and we all know this, Barry Trotz isn't going to a team where he can't get full control of the roster, roster decisions, all those things. That's not an easy thing to give up. And that's probably why you don't have other teams signing him. Vegas, Philly, they're not just going to, there's guys in there that also want to make personnel decisions. And I don't think they just want to hand the keys over. And then there's the debate if Barry Trotz is the mastermind, if Lane Lambert isn't the guy who, is been equally as important as Barry Trotz to a coaching staff. Well, Lane Lambert is not coming with Barry Trotz. And so there's all these things floating out, all these potential reasons for, what seemed like a slam dunk pick. And I don't know, you got to be careful with these things too, because different parties have different, mandates, different things that they want to put out there, and, float different narratives to have them talked about. It's why you're very careful. I mean, it's why you can go out something like this on a show and share what you're hearing. And it's another thing to put it on paper, to put it in print, because that is final. And you can that's why you have guys like Elliot Freeman, Darren Dreger, Pierre LeBrun, insiders floating. I'm hearing this, I'm hearing that. And it's because you have to be a bit safe. It's unless the team or the coach is telling you directly, you got to be a bit careful on what you actually print in some ways. So I think there's a lot going on here. I think there's a lot at play. I think there's a lot of decisions to be made. I get this feeling that, Barry Trotz was at one point willing to sit out the year. I think he was okay with just taking a deep breath. I mean, look at him. Every single available coach our available team was essentially, after firing their coach, was essentially going after him. Why is that going to be any different a year from now? And so he's already under contract with the Islanders, so he's getting paid. And so I think there was you hear about the talks that True North has come back. I think True North has circled back multiple times. I also know for a fact that True North has interviewed other people. They've reached out. Now, how formal those interviews are or whatever, they've met with other people out there. A lot of the people that I mentioned on my name, some have been hired, some are still floating out there. But I think that True North sees Barry Trotz as more than just a fix as a coach. I think this isn't new information. Others have said this, and I've said this on your show, Huss, is I think they view it as a victory when it comes to fans. Fans want an answer. I don't know, a guy, if you hire Barry Trotz today and the announcement is made that he's the next head coach, regardless of what the results will be down the line, a lot of people will buy into the Winnipeg Jets. They'll buy season tickets. He's the kind that he brings that hometown, coaching pedigree answer to the Winnipeg Jets that Mark Chipman is thinking about. Like, how could you not be? He answers a lot more questions than just roster decisions. But I also think that if you're going to give in to his, and I use demands lightly, I mean they are things that this is what he needs to be comfortable in his position. This guy has earned that position to ask for things. Now, would a market like Winnipeg be more susceptible to those demands than, say, a Philadelphia Flyers or a Vegas Golden Knights? I would go absolutely, because there's I think Philadelphia and those kind of destinations, Vegas and other places, they can kind of push back a little bit. I'm not saying the Jets can't push back or whatever, but I don't think they can play as hardball as other teams. And so if Barry Trotz has gone to other teams and said, this is what I want, there's probably a reason why other guys are getting hired ahead of him, despite some of them gassing their coaches with the pure hope of him coming on. And so I think when you think about it, it's not, it doesn't have, some of it's speculation, some of it's whatever, but I think a lot of it's common sense that you have a guy who wants a lot of decision making. You have a very proud organization in True North that believes in their staff and believes in what they're doing. And how much of the keys do you want to hand over to Barry Trotz? And then we also know he wants a management position. So, if you're Kevin Cheveldayoff, how comfortable are you giving a job to a guy, or wanting to give? I don't think it's Kevin Cheveldayoff's decision. I think it's Mark Chipman's decision, ultimately. But how comfortable are you to give it to a guy who ultimately wants, you could say wants your job, unless you move into a president of something, which I think is possible. I think that would depend, solely on the results. I don't think you could justify, a promotion if things go into the crapper, but there's just a lot of things to decide. And I think there's a lot of consideration to do. That short-term excitement, all those things, you're ultimately giving up power. And whether it's hockey or any industry or anything in life, that's not an easy thing to give up. And that's ultimately what Barry Trotz wants. And I think would bode well here in Winnipeg, given where the Jets are. Now, if the Jets were, perennial playoff team, and things were going well, they're coming off a horrendous season that fell so short of expectations that maybe you do need to give the keys to somebody else. Maybe you do need to give the decision making to someone else. That, even if that's something that the public, fans, myself included, may think be a benefit, I don't make those decisions. There's people in high places at True North that do, and I think that's the situation where we're at. Is that you got two parties that are both have respect for each other, but are trying to figure out if this is the fit that they want.
It sets up a fascinating week. If only we could know what they were talking about and where they're at right now, because I, like you, have heard a number of different things. And I mean, I take everything with a grain of salt. I mean, we have fun kicking things around. There's a lot of things I don't throw out here just because I think it's somewhat irresponsible.
Nick hasn't told you about any Dairy Queens around town that's giving you the straight goods.
Hey, dude, I popped into the DQ in Neepawa, asked around this afternoon. I was pounding the pavement around Clear Lake and Wasagaming. I was on call. If I needed to go up to Dauphin, make that 50-minute drive earlier this week, I was going.
Couple Barry Trotz tattoos on the shoulder, 2022 or what?
Exactly, off-season champs back to back. Let me ask you this, because what you did say is very interesting. And I think that, regardless of which way the coaching search goes, once there is clarity, the next thing that moves on to the roster. How different do you think this roster looks next year if Barry Trotz is the head coach as opposed to another option?
Not understanding who the other option is, but being someone different in ideology than a Barry Trotz. And
a guy that probably won't come in with the same sort of stroke when it comes to the
significant. And I think that, to me, if you had to ask me, which you are, I think that's the holdup. I think the holdup is the draft is going to be a very interesting day. This is what I predict. The draft will be a very interesting day for the Winnipeg Jets if Barry Trotz is the coach. Now, I think there are other options out there because I think you're looking at two different things. I think you're looking at a guy like Barry Trotz for all those other reasons I mentioned, including fixing the defensive issues. And that's what your interview is going on. And you're willing to open up, a lot of things for him, for his family as well. But I think that the other option is you're interviewing other candidates who I think you're more directing what can you do with this staff? Like, I don't think they're giving the same things. They're not giving the same things to other coaches, other candidates than they would a Barry Trotz. And I think with Barry Trotz is roster decisions important, because I think roster decisions for Barry Trotz has been his bread and butter in developing, whether it be, I want to say championship teams. He's got one Stanley Cup with Washington, but he builds, perennial playoff teams that are tough to play against. Now, other conversations I think are different. What can you do with this roster? This is, or certainly not as drastic change. We feel like we have a fit. We just need better structure. What would you do with this? And I think that True North is hearing those out. But I do think they, to answer your question, I think it's a drastic change in direction from what Barry Trotz would do if he came to Winnipeg.
So we were playing some clips earlier. Pierre said he thinks Barry Trotz makes his decision in and around Canada Day. Elliot Friedman suggested they need Walby and some beef in the room, and just don't let Barry Trotz out when they meet this week until he leaves. Do you have any inkling as to what sort of a timeline either are working on? I mean, I have no reason to doubt Pierre, but at the same time, we're talking about basically a week window. I mean, the sooner the better for the Winnipeg Jets. I think it's quite obvious. Will there be, do you think, some clarity this week post the meeting, or is this just another stage of the process that could drag on another week or two?
Look, I think it's a bit of a fool's game to suggest, this week. I mean, how long has that been going on, right? I mean, this, whether what day of the week or what the motion is, I think it's been an ongoing process. Whether I think it's safe to say that the Winnipeg Jets would want their guy in sooner than later, but I also think Barry Trotz, as he sees other teams fill vacancies, understands how much he's wanted here. And I think there's a big thing for him to consider. I've also heard rumblings about him getting offered other opportunities outside of the NHL. Now, I'm not suggesting other leagues, but other opportunities, as well as the opportunity to sit back and relax for a year. And I think that's not an easy decision. So as much as, the Winnipeg Jets and certainly fans want to know sooner than later, and, I love it, right? Because the speculation of the, the time frame here just seems to, and other coaches getting filled just seems to, depends what side of the fence you're on. Some people say, oh, this is a slam dunk for Barry Trotz coming. Others are concerned about the timeline. I would say this. It would have to, not saying it has to be, of course you'd want it to be, but I would say before the draft. Now, obviously that, conveniently gives me a lot of rope here as far as adding an extra week on even to the Canada Day projection. But the reality is you want your coach sitting there, because the coach doesn't make the decisions at the draft. A lot of the work that the Winnipeg Jets and True North have done doesn't really matter about the head coach and picking a guy. I don't think Barry Trotz has spent a ton, or any coach for that matter, has spent a ton of time, looking at the draft, the prospects here and who they personally like. That's the general manager's job. That's not, obviously in consultation with coaches too. And I'm sure some coaches have more say than others, but my projection would be ideally for the Winnipeg Jets would be today or this week sometime. But I think it's really going to come down to, Barry Trotz's decision on when he wants it. Again, I'm hearing rumblings that and reports like Mike McIntyre at the Free Press and others around town have said it's close to a done deal. I've heard that in the same vein where, he's just decided, I'm not 100% sure. So I do think that timeline is sooner than later. That's not really an answer to your question. I think it'd be ideally for the Jets this week, because you do need to move on to other candidates. Now those positions are getting filled, so there's only so many people that you can have. But I think there would be a bit of a sense of disappointment, if Barry Trotz moves on. But you don't really have that power when he's the guy that you want, and he's the guy that, as we've been saying, has been the top of the list or whatever. I don't think you rush a guy or you give him an ultimatum. You've already gone this far. But I have to think for Barry Trotz and himself, again, never been in a situation where I had to pick what NHL hockey team I wanted and give demands to. So I don't know what that timeline looks like and what I need for my family and my decision-making process. I will say this, the Nashville house has nothing to do with anything about him moving to Nashville. Apparently that's for like his kids or something, or just a real estate opportunity. But I do think that, if I had to make a guess, I would say no later than July 1st. I just don't see why, you need more opportunity. The negotiations are going to happen. I don't know, maybe you have talks this week and you want to sit with it for a few days. I don't think you need to sit with it for a week. So, do the mental math in there. And I think we're looking at, this week, and at the very least, trust those insiders who say by July 1st, because I don't see why it would go any later than that.
No doubt about it. Jeff Hamilton of the Winnipeg Free Press with us here on Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Let's move over to the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. You were out in Ottawa for Game 2 of the regular season, a 19-12 win. A defensive performance, especially in the second half, that was reminiscent of the team that smothered opponents at the end of last season. And, man, what a return of Jackson Jeffcoat. You see what the difference maker he is. And, man, he made maybe the biggest play of the game late in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, I mean, he was always, people debate over him and Willie Jefferson. Does it really matter? Both are studs. Both are guys that get to the quarterback. I'd say Willie Jefferson's a little bit more durable in the sense that he doesn't get injured as much as Jackson Jeffcoat, but what a player he is, right? I mean, they're around the same age. So it's not like, I think Jackson Jeffcoat might be a little bit younger, but he's a guy that brings that energy, right? And people always, they have the horses to, they have the depth, but it's the depth behind the depth, right? That becomes an issue when a guy, whether it be a Willie Jefferson or a Jackson Jeffcoat or any star, Adam Bighill, anyone on that team. Look at Brandon Alexander right now. I mean, if he's in the safety, if he's back in the secondary, they're probably not getting torched as much for yards, and there's a little bit more communication and structure there. But I don't even know what the question is now. But I will say this: that I think that what we saw is getting closer to the team that I don't think we're ever going to get to the 2021 Blue Bombers team, but you can tell there's rust for every club. And I think we're seeing subtle improvements from this team from week 1 to week 2. And I think I think that they have the benefit of buying time right now with those victories as they clean up a lot of stuff and as they get healthier and as they get guys back. But 2-0 is a nice start for a team, obviously, especially for one that probably doesn't deserve to be that mark. But as you've heard over and over again, the mark of being is can pull wins off when they're not playing at their best. Good to be lucky to be good, and that's what we got with the Bombers right now through 2 weeks.
Well, let's talk about the offense because hey, listen, you go on the road and put up 19 points. I think you'll agree you're probably somewhat fortunate to be lucky, but that's what a championship defense does. It allows you to win some games like that. The big questions were both in the backfield and receiving. Starting off with receiving, Ellingson's looked great. He's got a lot of connections, seems to have that chemistry with Zach Caleros continuing. And shown the rookie, big touchdown in the game and a couple. Are you surprised that they, like, those two guys were the two leading receivers for the club? I mean, I was sort of assuming that they'd be leaning on Dembski and Bailey and Wolodarski earlier on. I mean, what do you make of the Bomber passing game right now? What is working and what, could be better?
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you. I mean, it's not all that surprising that Greg Ellingson is performing the way he is, in the sense that, I mean, he's a veteran receiver in this league. He's put up a lot of good seasons in the past. He's got, some kind of chemistry with Zach Caleros as they started in Hamilton many moons ago. But just a veteran receiver, knows the game, right? He's going to pick up an offense better than a guy like a Schoen. So, like a Dalton Schoen. So to me, I mean, I think Dalton Schoen's been impressive in the sense that he's been impressive since the moment he arrived in Winnipeg. I mean, we've been talking about this guy in training camp as, I don't want to say like a Zylstra in the past, but no, he's a guy that comes in and maybe he can be a Jalen Acklin. Maybe he can be that, that Luke Tasker, right? That guy that comes in, has sure hands, runs his routes, efficiently and all those things. And I think we're seeing a bit of that. Now, I mean, he got in the end zone, right? This past week, I think he had 2 catches. So it wasn't like he was lighting things on fire either, but, promising nonetheless to get open. And that's the question here, right? From week 1 to week 2, Zach Caleros had more time to throw the ball. I think he was overwhelmed. I think that, and not just from the O-line in week 1, I think he had a bit of what you call happy feet, where I think he was, maybe a little too excited, never played a snap in preseason, so never got any of that, maybe early jitters out of the way. I thought he was a lot calmer, a lot more composed in the second week. But the question is are they designing plays for a guy like Nick Dembski? I thought Nick Dembski would be a guy who, when you saw his one half of play in the preseason, he had, I think, 3 catches for 80 yards and stretch the field. Now, Nick's done some good things. If you watch, he had 2 runs for 21 yards. And while the 12-yard run was obviously more yards, the 9-yard run, I would argue, was even more impressive in that he willed his way through. And you had Mike O'Shea singing his praises in the post game, talking about how incredible he is. Well, so I don't know if it's not getting the ball, like if he's not getting open, if they're not designing plays for him, if they're using things for decoy, using him as a decoy. There's lots of factors that come into play when talking about the success of an individual player and offense as a whole. But it is odd to think that, the 3 guys who were on this, were in this offense last season and for seasons, and Rasheed Bailey, Drew Wolitarsky, and Nick Dembski, those are the 3 guys that aren't reeling in catches, that aren't, pacing the team in plays. And again, I mentioned Nick Dembski. You had Rasheed Bailey have I think it was a 24-yard catch that led to, I believe, that first touchdown to Ellingson. He drew another pass interference call that led to a field goal. So they are, and Drew Wolitarsky had the longest reception of the game for the Bombers last in week 2 at 32 yards. So there are flashes here. It's just, I think, building consistency. And again, I don't know if it's they're not getting open, they're not getting, they're not designing plays for them. I have a hard time believing in that, but they're also playing to the coverage. Here's the other thing I think is important and needs to be understood a little bit, is that Paul LaPolice, there's absolutely no doubt in my mind, was scheming for this game for months. I'm not talking, I'm talking March. You know what I mean? I'm talking a guy who was watching film. He knew how crucial these 2 games were for his club after an incredibly disappointing first season as head coach last season. So and not to mention, of course, as we all know, how, he knows Buck Pierce. He mentored Buck Pierce. He's watching for certain things. He knows what the defense is doing. He knows how those guys act. So I think it was a very I would have said this is going to be a very, very tough early on test for the Ottawa Red Blacks. But then when I thought about it more, and certainly when you watch those games, maybe that was the perfect time to play the Bombers, was when they're rusty at the beginning and, banged up in the secondary. And I thought Paul LaPolice did a hell of a job, really combating the Bombers. I mean, they said that he threw things at them in week 1 that they just were not prepared for. And week 2 also battled. I mean, it was a close game throughout both. We can talk about some errors on Ottawa that probably led, including from Paul LaPolice, that led to their demise, if you will. But it just goes to show that you need to be pretty much play perfect football against the Winnipeg Blue Bombers to belt out a win or to earn a win. And right now, I think that they lost their chance, and the Bombers are going to get better, and we'll see what happens with the Ottawa Red Blacks for the rest of the season.
Well, and just speaking of Ottawa and LaPolice, I'll be honest. I mean, I had some flashbacks to 10, 11 years ago. Here's the head coach of the Blue Bombers doing a lot of right things, but having a complete lack of discipline on your football club that continues to kill you over and over and over again. And you look at game number 1, the penalties that Ottawa took at crucial times, and then, of course, the inability to hold on to the football. I mean, those are things that, are eminently correctable. And frankly, if they had been better in those aspects, I'm not sure we're not talking about at least a 1-1 team.
Well, for sure. And I mean, there's a comment too that I think I saw in the comment section that I forgot to mention. The previous one was that I don't know if the Bombers have that marquee playmaker. I'm still waiting to see it. They leaned on Andrew Harris a ton last year, right? Granted, he didn't play for pretty much half the season, but he brought not just a playmaking ability, but he brought a certain energy to the huddle, a real tangible energy to the huddle, from the O-line to the quarterback to to the receivers, 33 off of that. Kenny Lawler made incredible plays last year. There's no doubt about it. He led the CFL in receiving, and a lot of those plays, a lot of those catches were tough catches. They were, solid plays. So I think they're missing that right now in their identity a little bit. And, as much as, Brady Oliveira and Johnny Augustine, I thought that 1-2 punch was, it wasn't amazing in week 2, but it came up big at the right times, and I think what you saw in that last game was Brady Oliveira dropped 15 pounds this year, so he could be more resilient to an 18-game grueling season. I still think he's learning how to endure a long season. And that's why I think you saw Buck Pierce make a decision later in the game to bring in a Johnny Augustine. And I think we're going to see that a lot. I think Buck Pierce is really in tune with that backfield. But I just, at this point with the offense, I feel like there really is a bit of a missing link as far as that key playmaker. I felt that big time in week one. You play for teams, doesn't matter if you play for pro teams or not, but you kind of look up and down the bench, go, who's going to make a big play? And I look at the Bombers offense, and if it's, it takes two to tango. It can't just be Zach Collaros delivering a dart. It needs to be a guy catching it too. So I think that might be one of the things. As for, remind me of your last question about Ottawa, Huss, because I was
just saying how undisciplined they were and how they just
Right.
continue to shoot themselves in the foot with terrible penalties. They did it and they also had some drops and whatnot in game number one. But I mean, the game on the weekend, I mean, it just seemed like, there were plays where the Bombers were going to be off the field and 15-yard penalty. That then enabled them to continue on, and the Bombers will make you pay for those mistakes.
Oh, for sure. And I mean, none greater than the game sealing penalty at the end for roughing the kicker. You know what I mean? That's just, inexcusable. And so there's lots of plays, and whether that is, it's interesting because I don't put that their discipline issues per se as like Toronto was last season. Like Toronto was almost a group of bad boys that just used to do whatever they wanted. It was almost their identity on defense was to smack you in the mouth and take 15 yards for it. So, but to me, I look at, even Winnipeg had issues with penalties, right? I mean, and so penalties are either a lack of discipline, they're a lack of understanding the system. I mean, I think, we can argue, we can make the argument that Jeff Gray struggled in that department, but then cleaned it up by the end of the game. But certainly I thought penalties were, undid things for them in week two, but not in week one. I think it was the mistakes that Winnipeg made. I mean, even look at week two. I mean, Greg Ellingson dropped a sure touchdown. I mean, there were penalties that extended plays, killed drives. I mean, and outside of the discipline part for Ottawa, I mean, how do you have another week where you're mismanaging the clock? I mean, Mark Leggio kicks the kickoff out of bounds. You start at your 50, you have timeouts, and you're just shooting yourself in the foot. Like, really cool that you got that long distance, touchdown, long distance pass at the end of the first half, but you did the exact same thing the week before and you just scurried into the tunnel. You use your time out there and properly or before, you're getting valuable seconds to set yourself up, and you have the best kicker in the CFL. Those things are inexcusable. Last week or week one, it cost them the game because they lost by 2 points. They lost by a touchdown. There was a handful of things, including discipline, including, within that discipline, penalties, and then just making boneheaded plays. And so, as much as Ottawa looks improved, there's other areas that I think need to be cleaned up if they're going to, beat top end teams like Winnipeg.
No doubt about it. And as far as the running back situation goes, Brady Oliveira had 14 carries. Johnny Augustine had 7. Johnny with a 6.1 average, a couple beautiful runs. Wouldn't be surprised if he gets a few more touches next game. Hammer, thanks for doing this, man. Enjoy your time out east, and we'll see you when you get back to the Peg.
Always a pleasure, Huss. Thanks for having me on, and shout out to the commenters. I'm sure they're excited about this week. We'll see what happens.
Hey, right on. Thanks, Hammer. There is Jeff Hamilton, of course, talking Bombers as we always do here on the program. We do it for our friends at Princess Auto. Make sure to check out the pregame tailgate party beginning at 5:30 outside the stadium on Friday night. There's some great Princess Auto giveaways as well. And I guess Princess Auto, where you'll find the best deals on the most unique assortment of tools and equipment around. Everything you need to complete the projects on your list or start something new is at Princess Auto. Check them out at one of 2 Winnipeg locations or shop online 24/7, 365 at princessauto.com. Big shout out to our friends over at Not Auto Corp. I had a couple friends pop into Not on the weekend to check out those Teslas on the lot. A lot of people thinking about going electric in today's environment right now for a number of reasons. Not's got you covered to tell you everything you need to know about switching from a traditional vehicle to an electric vehicle. It's called the Tesla Experience. Find out more. And if you are looking for a new whip, why not get into the car of your dreams at a great price with the help of the Not team there at Waverly and McGillivray and online at not.ca. Of course, I mentioned the big Blue Jays watch party tonight at Boston Pizza. If you're looking for a table tonight, that's at BP Polo Park, June 20th, 7:10 p.m. tonight's first pitch. We got free food, drinks, tons of giveaways. Everyone's going to get a Blue Jays hat on arrival. You can see if they still have tables available. 204-925-4107. And if you're staying home tonight, you can always order online at bostonpizza.com. And we're going to talk some golf right now with the Z-Man. Whenever we talk golf on this program, we do it for our friends at Breezy Bend Country Club. If you're looking for an amazing long-term home for you and your family on the course, Breezy is the spot to do it. Find out more on the waiting list for next season with our friend Corey Johnson over at the clubhouse, or find out more online at breezybend.ca. All right, been an amazing couple weeks for the PGA Tour, starting last week north of the border at Royal St. George's and finishing off with Matty Fitzpatrick winning the U.S. Open yesterday. No one we love talking golf with more than the Z-Man, Mark Zecchino of Golf Talk Canada, PGA Tour Radio, and more. What's up, Z? How are you?
I'm exhausted.
That was
it's been a crazy couple of weeks. Good weeks, though. To your point, PGA Tour needed these weeks. They got 2 of them in a row. Pretty awesome experience at our national championship, and then a great U.S. Open this week. So at the end of the day, 2 very amazing weeks back to back. And I think, to your point, Tour needed them. So
well, they did. And let's back up to 2 weeks ago. In Southern Ontario, this was the week where, first of all, I think everyone was blindsided by the DJ move to the Live Tour, and Live had been dominating. You've covered this game for a long time. How weird was that week leading into the tournament before the real stars of the PGA Tour took over with the show they put on?
Yeah, it almost feels like 2 weeks, to your point. We were on location every day doing Golf Talk Canada, which we've never done before. Normally we do Golf Talk Canada on Monday radio, and then we might do a bonus edition on a Wednesday during a major week. Then we shoot the TV show on Tuesday, which airs then Wednesday, and they put it on a loop for the remainder of the week. So we've never actually been on location and done 5 days of radio before, Monday to Friday. And the first 3.5 days really felt like a different week, to your point. Liv was dominating the news headlines. It was one player going, then another player rumored to go. Obviously, Dustin Johnson, the face of the RBC ambassador program. They had to basically rip down posters, banners, take away TV creative overnight, RBC, to erase Dustin Johnson from their program and from this tournament, because he didn't wait 1 week, basically, is the reality of the situation, is that he didn't think it was necessary to go, hey, I've got an RBC obligation here. I'll go to Live the following event. He just jumped ship. It feels like in the middle of the night, and that's all we talked about. But then, Thursday afternoon rolls around, the tournament started taking shape. I started changing hats and started working for PGA Tour Radio. I was lucky enough to be with Rory McIlroy for 4 days. By the time we got to Sunday, Liv was a distant memory. Probably the greatest Canadian Open I've ever been a part of. So exciting, amazing leaderboard. We got exactly what we needed from a national championship, and the Tour got exactly the same thing. And it seems to me almost like, even if you look at the U.S. Open this week, Liv is a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday story. And then once the real golf starts, it kind of goes away. And I expect the same this week. We'll probably get some Live news tomorrow and Wednesday. And then by Thursday afternoon, it'll be gone again.
Yeah, we're off to the Travelers and seeing what the guys that are here are doing on the course. Hey, just one more thing from the RBC. There's such a focus on the Canadian talent in the game. We had Aaron Cockrell on the program on Monday, coming off his PGA Tour debut, making the cut for the first time. An incredible story and a very different path. Did you get a chance to cross paths with Aaron at all? And what were some of the people in the Canadian golf community talking about the guy that probably a lot of people weren't as familiar with as many of the regular names we see on tour?
I did not get a chance to cross paths with him, which is unfortunate, because he was the guy I was saying last week. People were asking me about, what I thought of the Canadians and yada, yada, yada. Of course, everybody goes to the usual suspects. And I was very quick to tell people, say, hey, if you have a chance to catch out Aaron Cockrell, keep your eye on this name. He was 40th on the DP World Tour coming into the RBC Canadian Open, playing well. Like you mentioned, a different path. Let's not forget that Brooks Koepka came through a similar path. You know, he played on the Challenge Tour. He played on the European Tour before he found major success on the main tour. So he was on my radar all week. I was unfortunate that I didn't get a chance to meet him. Was being pulled in 900 different directions last week. But I think he's probably got a very bright future ahead of him. And it's going to be interesting to see now how that DP World Tour kind of takes place and takes shape, because players are going to have to make some decisions soon. We're hearing a lot of rumors out of that tour. We don't know if they're going to stand with the PGA Tour or stand with the LIV Series. I'm hoping the rumors are wrong and that players will not have to make a choice. This is going to get ugly if it goes that way.
Well, if you could just refresh our listeners that maybe were so locked into the golf they didn't hear that. I mean, there are rumors that, you know, originally it was going to be one or the other. I mean, now potentially players could have the opportunity to go back and forth to the DP, to the LIV Tour. And what would that do to the PGA Tour, Z?
Well, that's what we're all kind of waiting on. And so far, it was just a story that leaked yesterday from Michael Collins of ESPN. It hasn't been picked up by anybody else. It has not been verified at this point. It's a rumor. Michael knows his stuff. Not trying to take any credibility away from Michael, who also works for SiriusXM. It's just right now, it's still in the rumor mill. We know Keith Pelley, who is the commissioner of the DP World Tour, was in London a week ago, meeting with the LIV Golf Series, apparently talking about even a potential partnership. To me, this is just very bad business. I mean, the European Tour, they couldn't keep their lights on during the pandemic. They went on hand and knee to the PGA Tour, asking for them for an investment, asking for them for their partnership to keep the lights on. Then they went back again and asked for help with sponsorship with some marquee events like the Irish Open and Scottish Open. Jay Monahan and the PGA Tour stepped up again. And now it's time for the DP World Tour to stand by their partner, and we're hearing everything else. So I'm hoping these rumors are wrong. I hope they do the right thing, regardless of how you feel about the LIV Series. You don't go to somebody to keep the lights on and then the first opportunity to stab them in the back, you sharpen the knife. That's just not cool. It's just not good business. Karma comes back around. And if it does come that way, who knows? Who knows what the tour does? The tour ain't going to sit there and take it. So we'll see what their shot back to the DP World Tour would be.
Mark Zecchino with us, Golf Talk Canada, PGA Tour Radio as well. Z, we got to Brookline, and I mean, let's just say we weren't talking about any of the LIV guys on Sunday afternoon. And it was Matty Fitzpatrick, a guy that I had a little piece of on at the RBC, and I stupidly got off because I thought he had a couple good first rounds. And in fact, how impressed were you about his 72 holes, especially hitting 17 of 18 greens in the final round, and maybe most memorably his bunker shot on 18 to all but assure him the opportunity to two-putt and at worst be in a playoff?
You know, he's kind of been on everybody's radar now for a while, waiting for a breakthrough victory. So hard to make your first win on the PGA Tour a major, but he's done it. But I think you hit the nail on the head. You know, he was impressive all week. He's been very solid all year. But Sunday, as just a micro example, wow. I mean, what iron play. It might be one of the best iron performances we've seen in decades. To hit 17 greens in a final round of a U.S. Open, I mean, he looked like he was in full control pretty much the entire day. It didn't look like he was ever going to miss a green, and he practically did it. And to your point, the bunker shot on 18, I mean, you've got to go back decades to find a fairway bunker shot in a major championship that kind of stands out like that. I know Paul Azinger on the broadcast mentioned Sandy Lyle at the Masters back in the 80s. I mean, it might be that long. I was sitting there grinding out my brain going, you know, when was the last time we had a situation like this? And those are real bunkers. Those are real penalty areas. These are not the bunkers we play week in and week out on the PGA Tour with these perfect, firm lies where the guys are almost aiming for them because they'd rather hit out of the bunker than the rough. These are real, sandy, lumpy hazards. And what a solid strike to man up there. He had 159 yards, smoked a 9-iron to 19 feet. I mean, very impressive. spent the last year working on his swing speed, trying to find some distance. He was 13th in driving distance this week for a guy that used to hover around the 100th. So he's hitting it further. He's striping his irons. He's got a great short game. Pretty good recipe for a victory.
Well, I mean, Scotty Scheffler was kind of joking because he certainly doesn't look like he went on the Bryson program, but he's done something to get that extra distance, and obviously it culminated with this win. What's the takeaway for Will Zalatoris? I mean, this guy, he just hits the ball so well. He's always there on Sunday, and now he's got 3 near misses, but still hasn't raised a trophy.
I think the takeaway is you're good enough to do this. You've been there now several times with one hand on the trophy. The question for me becomes, when does this cross the line from confidence, because you keep putting yourself there and you keep beating basically all the best players in the world, except for one? That's really what this comes down to. Where does it cross the line, or does it cross the line to scar tissue, where you start to think, this just isn't going to happen? Or there's, the Sergio Garcia where, the golf gods are out to get me, where there's these outside parts of the golf universe that are keeping you out of the winner's circle. I don't think we're there yet with Zalatoris. I think it's, he's still got a very young career on the PGA Tour, and I don't think he's gagged it. And that could be the real difference. With Sergio over the years, there were times where he lit it on fire and gave it away. Phil Mickelson, the same thing. Greg Norman, numerous occasions. There's numerous others. I don't think we're there with Zalatoris. He's playing great golf. I don't think he's gagging it. I don't think he's giving it away. I just think he's getting beat by one guy. I think sooner or later the door's going to open up. Whether it's at a major or not, I don't know. It might happen on a regular PGA Tour event at any point this year, and likely at an event where par means something. Maybe a playoff event where, 7-8 under is a good score to win a golf tournament. I expect them to probably get it done on a tough golf course.
Z, I've just got to quickly ask you before we go about 2 guys that, are amongst the best in the world. Certainly Rory McIlroy came in on a heater after that 62 at the RBC, was in the mix throughout, but, at the end was, I guess, finished T5 or T4 or so. And I'll be honest, John Rahm going into yesterday, being 1 shot back, despite that double on Saturday on the 18th hole, I thought was poised to go back-to-back. What did you make of their tournaments and especially their Sunday rounds?
I think for Rahm is a big surprise. It's been a weird year for Rahm, hasn't it? It's just, we all expect him to find the winner's circle more often. We've all been waiting for Rahm, especially the way he started the year. If I go back to my first event of the year, I was in Hawaii at the Tournament of Champions. Him and Cameron Smith were putting on a show. Rahm looked like he was going to win every time he went out. These guys were, over 30 under par and better. Incredible scoring. And then it just hasn't happened for Rahm. And when you saw his name there Sunday on the leaderboard, you thought, okay, look out, here he comes. And to your point, it just doesn't happen. And I still think the putting is a big problem for Rahm. And now we're going to go to the Open Championship, and I wonder how the slower greens, the bumpier putting surfaces at St. Andrews and the slower greens, how they're going to translate. Do they help a John Rahm who's struggling with his putting, or does it make it more challenging and the struggles continue? I don't know. There's more question marks for me there. He's so good that sooner or later this is gonna snap and he's gonna come out with some wins. But there's still a lot of questions. As far as Rory goes, this is incredible. He's either he's top 5 or top 10. On a bad week, he's 16th now. The level of consistency is incredible. He just doesn't rack up the victories the way that you would expect. This wasn't a great golf course for Rory. The greatest weapon in his bag is his driver and his long game. His strokes gained off the tee, his strokes gained outside 200 yards. He can just be dominant with the long game. This was not the golf course for that. I think when we get to St. Andrews, it's a perfect setup. A lot of wiggle room off the tee. Those who can pound the driver, those who can really dominate with the long game. Look at over the years what Tiger did at St. Andrews. I think watch out for Rory. I think he'll be the hands-down favorite at the Open Championship.
Z, this has been great. Hey, just on the way out, What are you hearing about Liv? I mean, there are going to be some other big names that we might hear this week no longer being members of the PGA Tour.
Yeah, I think you're definitely going to hear some recognizable names. I'd be shocked if you don't hear them. I don't think you're going to hear any recognizable names that are currently dominating on the PGA Tour. You're not going to hear Hovland, Scheffler, Schauffele, anything like that. You're going to hear guys that are either past their prime with name recognition, or guys that are still not, are still in their prime, but 60th in the world, 80th in the world, stuff like that. I don't see anybody inside the top 20 in the world even considering this at the moment, and you might even push that down a little.
What about Brooks?
That's the name I'm curious, because I don't know anything. I haven't heard a lot. He's been very kind of all over the place.
Yeah, said he hasn't even thought about it. Yeah, right.
Yeah. The one thing we know about Brooks Koepka, though, he's been open. He really doesn't care about golf, and he certainly doesn't care about PGA Tour events. He's told us that in the past. So if he goes to Live, it'd be like, okay, well, you don't even like the PGA Tour. You've told us that. So, again, if he went, wouldn't surprise me. I haven't heard it. I've heard more names like Abraham Answer as a name. Ricky Fowler, those types of names. Not hearing anybody who has dominated the winner's circle headlines, FedEx Cup over the last 12 months or so. All those guys are staying put.
That's good. Where are you off to next?
Working the Travelers Championship from the home studio this week, so calling some golf from home. Then I'm going to Ireland to shoot a Golf Talk Canada TV special.
Nice.
And then we hit the road for the rest of the year. I'll be in Detroit. I'll be in Wyndham. I'll be in Memphis for the first playoff event. It's going to be a crazy end of the season.
Z-Man, listen, we really appreciate you making time. I know how busy you are. It was an amazing, amazing major championship. Can't wait for St. Andrews, and can't wait for your next visit with us here on Winnipeg Sports Talk. You be well. Thank you.
Thanks, guys. We'll do it soon.
Good stuff. There is the Z-Man, Mark Zecchino. You can follow him on Twitter at Z, that's Z-E-E, Man Golf. And, of course, if you do have Sirius XM PGA Tour Radio, great way to keep up on the action if you're driving around over the course of the weekend, and Mark does just such a great job on that. All right, we got to get Remis back in here. We got to get to some horse picks and more. Hey, by the way, I want to give a big shout out to the folks over at Clear Lake. The golf course, the beverage cart, absolutely elite selection. Was able to grab an ice cold 1919 on the course. Had a few people mentioned the what was going on with their friends at Little Brown Jug and Barry Trotz over the weekend as well. Few things go better with a round of golf than an ice cold 1919. Of course, you can grab that summer variety pack for Little Brown Jug at your local beer store or down at Little Brown Jug, and we are going to be there Friday afternoon, 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. If you got the afternoon off, come on out, hang out with us, enjoy a couple pints. It might be a great way to pregame for that big Bomber game on Friday night as well. So Friday afternoon, 1 o'clock, WST Live at Little Brown Jug. And it wasn't just the 1919 in the beverage cart. They also had the Canadian Club and Ginger, the ready-to-drink drink of the summer. Nice and easy. Get one of those in a slim can koozie, and you are set. Had a few of those so far this summer. If you haven't tried them, you can get them at your local liquor marts or beer store. And don't forget, all month long, any Canadian's beer store, if you grab the six-pack of Canadian Club and Ginger, you get a free Bomber Slim Can koozie and be entered to win a Blue Bomber autographed jersey. All right, Remo, let's get to it. We get to the Coolbet Lines in a minute and just touch on tonight's game. But it's time to make some picks for Assiniboia Downs. Live racing is back tonight. We're back on our regular schedule of Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday throughout the year, 7:30 p.m. post time. And if you missed the shows last week, today, tomorrow, and Wednesday, you'll have an opportunity to make your selection for race number 6. We'll be taking the top 3 people picking winners, as well as a couple more random entrants to join us out. World famous prime rib dinner, your guest, great night of racing as well. So we'll get to that. Remo, now you had the big week last week. I did not, but I'm looking to turn over a new leaf when we get to our selections today.
I'm just looking at my scorecard here. So on last race day was Wednesday. Did you have any winners on Wednesday?
I don't believe I did. I don't believe I did.
didn't. I never did an official recap. I didn't. So I'll mark you down. So you've got a bit of a lead on me, but we're pretty neck and neck here, and there's a lot of time left.
It's very early. It's very early.
Yeah.
All right, so let's get to our picks, and then we'll get to race 6, and we'll give you the email to send in your selection and enter. Obviously, completely free to win. I know you're ready to go. Where are you at with your selections tonight?
Okay, let me just pull up my picks here. Sorry, I gotta go double computer, but we have had to navigate some technical issues here today, and thanks everyone for sticking around. It was tough when Jeff was on. My program crashed, and I had to restart it, but thankfully everyone was still here, and we were able to just pick up where we left off. And I don't know, Dave's video, sometimes technology is weird, Huss, where you have no idea why it doesn't work after it's worked flawlessly every single time, and then you just reboot it, and I'm sure it'll be.
The beauty of the
Next
podcast
problem.
is if you're listening to the podcast, you didn't even know it happened.
I do edit it all out on the podcast. That is correct. Okay, I got my picks here now that I've talked about all that. And yeah, Jeff, Jeff is at the lake, and we did some serious testing on which location in the house worked. He had the best cell or Wi-Fi signal. So there was only that one hiccup, and the rest was fine. But yes, podcast people may not even realize. Okay, I'll start with my picks here. I am starting race 4. Bring it up. Hold on. Sorry, I got a lot going on here. There we go. Race 4. I'm doing a Quinella, $5, 2 and 7. Brody's Streak and Gold Special. Finish 1, 2 in any order. And race 5. I am picking My Father's Eyes, horse 5 to win. That's 5. These are all $5 bets. And on race 7, I am selecting horse 6, Truly and Terrific, who I'm pretty sure we've picked before to win, $5. And I will save my race 6 selection.
All right, so I'm going to go to race 1. We'll try and get a win right off the bat in the first win. We're going to go Artesian Dancer, the favorite. We'll throw 5 on that one to win. That is horse number 5. Now in race number 4, we'll do a little $5 Quinella, and we're going to take 2 horses, Brody's Streak and number 5 Outcome. So a 2-5 Quinella in race number 4. And then we get to race number 6. So folks, here are your selections. You've got 9 of them. Maybe grab a quick pen because you can take some time. Obviously, you can go to hpibet.com to check out, all of the opportunities to bet for Assiniboia Downs as well as races around. You're looking at the HPI Bet screen right now if you're on YouTube. We've got 9 horses. The early favorite, number 1, Kiki My Star. 2 is Phantom Power. 3, Inspiritus. 4, Special Inclusion. 5, I Am Eine. 6, Outclassed You. 7, Hazy Winter. 8, Wrathmeister. And number 9, Storm Kitten. All you have to do, folks, is pick a horse from 1 to 9. Email your entry into Sherry G, that's SHERIG, at asdowns.com. Get those emails in if you're listening on the podcast just before the races go tonight. And again, we'll give you a bit of an update. I know we had a few winners last week, but again, if you missed last week for some reason, don't worry about it. We'll also be picking some random winners from everybody that enters. So just make sure you get your name, your phone number in on that email, and pick your horse for tonight's race number 6. Remo, where are you going on race number 6?
Here is my race 6. It is, and you pronounce this differently than I thought it was. It is you wrote I Am Eine. Is that what it is?
I don't know. I Am Eine or I Am Ain?
I thought it was I Am Ain or I Am Ein. I think it's a Pearl Jam song, right? I Am Mine. Isn't that a Pearl Jam song? But this is Eine or Ein. Anyways,
I could have just butchered it. We'll refer to the experts. Kirk
Well,
Courtois. He'll have it. You can check it on AS Downs tonight.
when I watch it on YouTube tonight, I will report back. That is my pick at 8-1. A bit of a long shot. I will say these 9-horse, races. I feel like it's anyone's game. You don't really see the favorites come out with these on these big fields, so I'm going with this one.
No, you're right. All right, I'm gonna go with number 3 in Spiritus for the win. And I'm actually, because I've got a little bit of extra cake, I'm going to go with this is a big race. I'm going to try and get a little triactor action in here. So I'm going to go 1-3-5. The 1-3-5 triactor as well. So I'll do a $1 triactor wheel on that, and then I'll put 4 to win. So there you go. I'm on number 3 in Spiritus. Remis is on number 5. I am Aine, or I am Ain. Not sure whether we're pronouncing it right. But 1-9, pick your favorite horse. Send an email into sherrygg@asdowns.com. And after Wednesday's action, we'll let you know who the top picker was, as well as some of the other winners. And then we'll set a day up probably in a week or two where we'll have our guests out. Everyone that won will be able to bring a guest as well. You can chow down on that world-famous primary buffet and have a great night at the races. Good stuff, and it's actually not too bad. We'll see whether the weather comes tonight and what it's like. But again, if you're not making it out for live racing, you can always watch it online at the AS Downs YouTube channel. All right, let's get to the Coolbet lines for tonight, because we do have Game 3 of the Cup Final. And Remo, I can't say that I'm surprised, but this game is a dead pick'em. Colorado -106, Tampa -106. Take your pick as to who wins. Will we have a 3-0 series lead and a potential very short series, or does Tampa get off the mat and win? I'm sort of with Dave. I'm not counting them out, but they sure look pretty dead on Saturday night against the Avalanches. They got absolutely pounded in Denver.
Yeah, that's why I saw earlier. Lightning were bigger favorites. I think it was like -115. So I would be just take Colorado based on the math there. So I would take Colorado here. Although there are some injury news. I think Burakovsky's day-to-day. Kadri's still not playing. Braden Point, he did play, but now is back to being day-to-day. But some of these goals, you have like Josh Manson and Cale Makar, and there's another one. They just walk in, just beat Vasilevsky on these long shots. That's what shocked me the most about some of those goals. Everything's going Colorado's way. They're so good at passing, so fast. It seems like this is Colorado's to lose now, so I'm on the Colorado train here.
If you think Vasilevsky's going to do his usual huge bounce back, it certainly didn't happen in game number 2. Under 2.5 goals for the Avalanche is +120. The total over-under for the game in regulation is 5.5, which is interesting considering the amount of scoring that Colorado's done. I do think it'll look a little different when things get back there. Now, here's just a bit. This is interesting, and Remo, hit the series line if you could. So the series line right now: Avalanche -526, and the Tampa Bay Lightning +380. But Remo, if you go down, you could also see the correct series result in the best of 7. If you, for some reason, are thinking that you think Tampa is going to come back and win this series, you're much better off to split your bet between away 4-2 and away 4-3 than take the +380. Essentially, if you put $100 on Tampa right now to win the series at +380, your 100 would win you 380, so it would return 480. The other option, what you could do, would be to put $50 on Tampa to win 4-3 at +850, and $50 on Tampa to win 4-2 at +1,700. Essentially, just the way of kind of like looking at some of the lines that are available. If you split that bet, the only way Tampa can win this series is to win either 4-2 or 4-3. So by my calculations, the $50 bet at +850 would be pretty darn close to what that +380 pays out. And if for some reason they did to Colorado, I'm not expecting it, but what they did to the Rangers and win 4 in a row, all of a sudden that $50 is getting times by 17.
Yeah.
So some interesting options right now as we get down to the final stroke.
Yeah, it's gambling arbitrage. Gambling arbitrage right there, Huss. You're just basically teaching a finance course right now. Way to go.
I didn't know what that was, but you're right. I mean, it's just a matter of manipulating your bet a little bit better. Major League Baseball tonight, as we mentioned, Jays fans getting together over at Boston Pizza Polo Park, and the Jays are a -128 favorite over the Chicago White Sox. White Sox plus 105 at home. Speaking of the Jays, room, you see that crazy game yesterday against the Yankees? Finally, they salvaged something out of that series. Man, that Yanks team is good.
I did. The Yankees, they got the big bats. Everyone seems to be going. I keep hearing about Matt Carpenter. I forgot he was still in the league, but the Jays were down. You thought, oh, man, what a horrible series this is. And the bats woke up. What a wild finish. I was like, oh, my God, it's 10-8, and then it was 10-9. A crazy amount of runs. Loves, following the baseball Sunday afternoon. I'm in a couple fantasy leagues, so, it always goes down to the wire on the head-to-head fantasy Sunday. So I was keeping an eye on that game. So nice to see the Jays get on the board.
Quick look at the CFL lines for the upcoming week. Thursday's game, Saskatchewan at Montreal. Saskatchewan is 2.5-point road favorites. The Bombers have opened up as 5-point favorites at home against the Hamilton Tiger Cats for Friday's game. The Elks and Stampeders, Battle of Alberta, Saturday, 6 p.m. Calgary, 7.5-point favorites against the winless Elks. And the BC Lions, 3-point favorites against the Toronto Argonauts in that game. I was just realizing, Reem, too, next weekend, the Canada Day long weekend, the Bombers are actually playing Monday Night Football. Week 4 against the Toronto Argonauts. A Monday nighter coming up a week Monday.
Yeah, I'll give you my quick CFL takes from the weekend. Montreal, who's playing quarterback for them this week? Is it Trevor Harris or is it Vernon Adams? I'd probably lean Saskatchewan there. I think a Bombers -5. That seems too little against this Hamilton team, although not like the Bombers have impressed. Although huge loss for Hamilton after a terrible week 1. I don't know, Bo. I thought just when I'm ready to mail in my Bo Levi is done takes, put in Jake Mayer, he actually makes that comeback and they win in overtime. Incredible. I'm still not so sure about Calgary. Edmonton almost covered, but then they really blew it at the end of the game. I don't think they're as bad. They were
up with 5 minutes left.
Yeah, I don't think they're as bad as you think they are based on their week 1 game. They played Saskatchewan much closer at home. How about that catch by Kenny Lawler? I can't believe he got a foot down. Climbing the ladder for that one. I think BC is going to smash here after the bye, -3. That seems too little. I like BC. I'd lock in BC Winnipeg early here if you think it's going to go up.
Yeah, well, I mean, the Hamilton situation's interesting. And as I said, I was out at the lake at a buddy's cabin that did not have the cable set up. So I was listening to the first half of the Hamilton-Calgary game, and it was 24-3. I'm like, all right, well, that one's pretty much done. And then we went and watched the hockey, which we had on a phone. And I just checked the feed later on, and I saw someone tweeting, hey, if you're all over Bo Levi Mitchell in the first half, you better be giving him his props now. And I'm like, what the hell happened? And then realized they came back and won it in overtime. So the West so far, sort of funny. We talked about all the parity in the East and how, we'll see what's happening with the West right now. The standings are somewhat familiar to what we've been used to for a long time in the Canadian Football League. The West, Sask 2-0, Bombers 2-0, Calgary 2-0, BC 1-0, and the Argos with that win over Montreal. The only win in the East Division so far, Ottawa, Hamilton, and Montreal, all 0-2 so far on the season, although I do think they'll win more games than we've seen in the last few years, Reem.
Yeah, and shout out to, I think Ottawa's a much better team. They played the Bombers pretty tight there, but shout out to 3 Down Nation, who, for some reason, I don't know why, had Saskatchewan on top of their power rankings after week 1. Like, what the H was that? But they seem
Saskatchewan Rough Riders, week 2 champions of the CFL. Raise the banner.
Seem to have come to their senses and put the Bombers at the number 1 spot at their power rankings. How do you not? Although it does say their defense have given up a league worst 355.5 passing yards per game. But as we said, when it comes into the red zone, they can't score.
Points.
They can't score. Pretty. So I think there are some Bomber fans who are nervous. Hey, you'll take the 2-0. I mean, good teams find a way to win, and they certainly have. And they've overcome a couple missed extra points that could have been very crucial. And your eye on the kicking game is going to be there. Will it be the whole season? I don't know.
Well, lots of us to get to. We'll be talking much more Bombers coming up this week. Again, Bombers, Ticats, Friday nights, the whiteout game.
Yes.
Very interested to see how that's going to work. I mean, everyone wears blue to Blue Bomber games. I mean, how many people will jump on the whites? And the Bombers will be wearing the whites in that game, which they don't very often on home field.
Yeah, you know why? Because they wore white when they beat the Ticats in the Grey Cup, and they're playing. Who are they playing on Friday? The Ticats. We never really went over this. Do you want to give your ratings on the Bombers uniform lineup? Darren retweeted this from the Bombers, and Paul Friesen goes, "That's not news." I'm going to disagree. This is really important news. What uniforms they're going to be wearing when.
I want to know this. Okay, so it is the white uni for the game on Friday. Listen, I like the blue way better than the white. I'm not going to.
I agree.
I mean, I love the Bomber unis, but I'll tell you what, I can't wait for the Banjo Bowl and the game in August against Montreal with the new jerseys. I was one of the people that liked the Minecraft jerseys. You recall, I wore one for a good couple of seasons with the W on the front and the weird. Like, I kind of liked it was a little different.
No, those were good. I'll tell you what. Those were good if they were Argos jerseys. That wasn't Bomber colors.
The blue? Yeah, blue. You're right.
Wasn't the right shade.
Not Bombers.
Wasn't the right shade of blue. Come on. Everyone knows it. Didn't have gold.
People
wasn't Bomber colors.
Complain about everything. I'll say this, though. I saw a ton of people wearing the new jersey at the game last week, and they are sharp. They are so sharp, and it's even cooler knowing that the two stripes represent the last two Grey Cups. So
everyone knows.
We've seen quite a few of those. And other than those two games with the alternate jersey and the white jerseys this week, it's the usual best unis in the CFL for Bomber home games.
I like that they're going color rush too. Blue jersey, blue pants. What if they have gold helmets? They used to have blue helmets, didn't they? I wonder if they'd ever bring back a blue helmet, although it's probably too hard to have alternate helmets, but
nobody wants a blue helmet. It's
why?
Blue and gold.
Well, have a blue if you're gonna go all blue, like color rush blue jersey, blue pants, put in a blue helmet.
You 2 seconds ago, you were just complaining that there was no gold on the Minecraft jersey.
I never said that. I don't recall that.
It was not 15 seconds ago that you said that, and now are promoting a blue helmet.
I never said that. There is gold anyways. The gold is on the striping of the two stripes for the two back-to-back Grey Cup.
Well, as I said, if you do have a white one, get it ready for Friday night. It should be a good one. We'll see if the Bombers can get to 3-0. Hoping to have Greg Ellingson pop in the program this week. We'll fill you in on that, potentially even tomorrow. We're going to work on that with DC. Of course, we'll probably hook up with Eddie Tate, Darren Bombing, maybe one of the 3 down guys before Friday afternoon. And again, Friday afternoon, folks, if you can join us down at Little Brown Jug in the Exchange on William Avenue, we'll be doing the show live from 1 o'clock to 3 p.m. and then getting a little pre-gaming in for those of you that are heading off to the game.
Just about the Friday show, Pat was asking in chat if we will have any merch available. We do have some hoodies and some other stuff on our website. So go to winnipegsportstalk.com, click on store, and if you buy it and select pickup, on location, you can just pick it up there. You don't have to exchange any money with us. We'll have it ready for you. So
yeah, perfect. Yeah, you know what? Yeah, go to the store, winnipegsportstalk.com, click on store, click whatever you want, and then if we're able to, I guess some stuff does get shipped. Is that right, Remo? Or do we have?
If you wanna ship it, you can. But if you want to pick up, just hit pick up.
Okay, sounds good. So we can do that. And again, if you got any questions, just hit us up with an email at winnipegsportstalk@gmail.com. Great show to kick off the week. Again, awesome weekend. We've got a big game tonight. Tomorrow we'll break down Game 3 of the Stanley Cup Final. Hoping to have Chris Nyland join us as well. He's getting into the podcast game. That should be fun. Mike McIntyre, ASD picks, and more. Eric Fair is going to join us a little later on this week as well. And hoping to have Steve Coolius. And then, of course, Friday's show, we mentioned, we'll be down at Little Brown Jug, and hopefully we'll have a few friends join us in person. Thanks again to everyone that joined us, Mark Zecchino, Dave Poulin, and of course, Jeff Hamilton, and everyone that made us a part of your day. If you're with us on YouTube, make sure you've hit that red subscribe button. Tell a friend about WST, and we'll see you tomorrow at 1 o'clock p.m. right here on Winnipeg Sports Talk on YouTube.
Oh, my God! Oh! Shut it down! Let's go home!
Thanks for tuning in to Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Make sure to subscribe on YouTube and your favorite podcast feed at winnipegsportstalk.com.